Good evening. My name is Derek Beckwith, Chair of the Beverly Planning Board, and it's my pleasure and honor to call tonight's meeting of the Beverly Planning Board to order, Tuesday, November 18th, 2025, at 7:05 in the evening. Welcome, everyone. We have another lengthy evening, most likely. So just ask folks to bear with us as we move through the agenda. We have one thing to handle before we recess into the public hearing for Zero Trask. And so we're going to handle that now, and then we'll get into it. Yes.
Read the disclaimer.
And I need to read the disclaimer. Thank you. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, Section 40, adopted on March 29, 2023, this meeting of the City of Beverly Planning Board will be conducted in person and via remote participation. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to attend via remote participation may do so through the Google Meet information provided at the end of the agenda, which is also posted on the City of Beverly website, and so the logistics are all available there. And have been on the posted agenda. So with that, I call the meeting to order, and our first order of business is subdivision approval, not required plans, there are none. Second, moving along speedily, endorsement of modification to definitive subdivision plan at 114 Livingston Avenue and extension of performance bond to December 6, 2027. The applicant is 7 Porter Terrace, LLC. You remember, I think it was at our last full meeting.
August 19th.
August 19th, one of our last most recent meetings. We went over all of the new documents and plans, et cetera, for that. So, Mr. Clausen, do you have just a quick update?
Yeah,
for
the board had imposed some conditions about they had to do some things. They had applied for some waivers that had to do with drainage, which we had denied. And then in concert with that, there were some additional conditions put on it that before endorsement of the plan, they would provide drainage calculations, drainage studies, details, et cetera, et cetera. Engineering's reviewed them, signed off on them. Everything's good to go. Plans are ready to be endorsed. And rather than establish a new performance bond, since this was a modification to a subdivision already under construction, the performance bond for that is valid for this. However, they did not extend it past its expiration date. I think it was in June of this year. So we need to vote to extend that performance bond until December 6th of 2027.
Okay. Do any members have questions for Mr. Clausen at all? I'd welcome a motion. Yes. Ellen.
Do we take them into, oh, sorry. Mr. Beckwith and Mr. Clausen, do we take this as one motion or two?
One motion's fine.
I move to endorse the modification to the definitive subdivision plan at 114 Livingston Avenue and to extend the performance bond to December 6, 2027 for the applicant 7 Porter Terrace, LLC.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Gomes. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous.
The applicants, I told not to attend because there was no reason for them to come for this. So you can sign those plans after the meeting since they're not ready here to pick them up.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay, I'd welcome a motion to recess from to public hearings.
So moved.
Seconded by Mr. Gomes. And all those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous, and we are now in public hearings. Our first and only public hearing of the evening is the continued public hearing for site plan review number 168-24 and inclusionary housing number 30-24, applicant Zero Trask Lane, Corcoran Trask Lane LLC, attorney Peter Mahoney, EVP, and we have attorney Miranda Samasco here to kick us off.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Good evening. Miranda Samasco on behalf of the applicant. We have not been here for a while, since September 16th. And so I think this evening's, the good news is since September 16th, a lot of things have happened and been, I think, crossed off the list so that we can be pretty focused this evening and, of course, answer all of the board's questions. Basically, since September 16th, we have, first of all, submitted the application or the permission from the owner of Apple Village to proceed with site plan review because some of the easements were located on their property, including the access easement. The planning department determined that we needed to have their signature on the site plan application, which came in right after our scheduled October 7th hearing date. We also have received now the engineering department memo, basically saying that all of the conditions of their original November 24th or November 2024 memo had been complied with the exception of the replacement upgrade of the sewer line, and asking that select conditions be carried forward as standard conditions in the board's decision. We also received an updated letter from the fire department from October 26th. I think the conclusion of which is that the comments from the fire department have now been satisfied, both the original ones and the comments that were most recently brought up at the Parking and Traffic Commission's meeting in October. We went to Parking and Traffic Commission to have them review the option B that was presented at the last two public hearings. They also heard from the peer reviewer, Jeff Dirk, at that meeting, and at the conclusion, they issued a recommendation letter that was, I guess, finally authored on October 31st. So that is now set. We were asked to update all of the plans to reflect the option B changes, or not changes, but I guess variations, most of which were minor throughout the plan set, but those have been all updated. So the board now has a complete set of plans dated November 10th that incorporates all of the comments or all of the changes with respect to option B. And that really highlights the biggest change, which is at our last meeting, we spent a lot of time talking about option A, option B, and the board's comfort level in voting alternative options. We heard loud and clear that there was no comfort in that, so we have elected to proceed with option B by updating the plans accordingly, now that we have the Parking and Traffic Commission's recommendation on that. So we've also responded to the more recent version of to the most recent public comments that were forwarded to us from the Planning Department from Karen Johnson and Patrick Knight. There have been separate response letters that I forwarded through Mr. Clausen to those. So we feel as though at this point, we have certainly presented the project, and we feel that the board now has all of the comment letters received. So our next item to review with the board would be proposed conditions to a decision on the site plan, and we're prepared to do that this evening. We do not have any other presentation, so depending, and we are prepared to walk through the conditions. I know that they were shared through staff with the board. I didn't know whether you had anything else that members wanted to review ahead of time, but that's really the bulk of our presentation is intended to go through the conditions and in particular some changes that we had requested both in our original comments and in the most updated version, which we sent to the Planning Department yesterday.
I think I've been really trying to figure out how best to manage the meeting, this meeting, because, there are conditions, you're right, we're at that point to start that. But before we do that, we're going to have public comment continued because, because it's a public hearing. Additionally, we know that we've been talking since August, September, et cetera, about option B. However, there still remain questions that it's our responsibility to, and our obligation and our honor to have the public raise their concerns and address those questions, especially the new questions that are coming up. And then once we do that, then we'll start talking about the conditions. And I think the best way for us to do that is to go through them one topic at a time. For example, we can follow the Mr. Clausen and the staff has prepared, and you've seen basically a listing of the conditions and the
Suggested conditions.
yeah, that's the conditions that need to be filled in and decided upon by the board. And so, whether it's health departments, which probably won't take too much time, and et cetera, we'll go through them step by step and have a discussion at the beginning of each one of those sections. Then my suggestion is that that's when you present, rather than taking a half hour to fire hose us and everyone else, is that we just really focus on something for whether it's 5 minutes or 25 minutes or whatever. And with the idea that some of these things we're probably not going to finalize, or in terms of what we're looking at and would look at as a vote, but rather we can identify ones that we'll have to do more thinking on and come to our next meeting ready to come up with suggestions. Our, endorsing with conditions, it's better for us to have worked out the conditions ahead of time, because otherwise it'll become a tangled web of
Wordsmithing.
along the way and that sort of thing.
Mr. Chair, may I just ask one?
And I have a couple of questions to ask
Okay,
you, too,
okay.
before we kick
All
off.
right, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's
but
okay.
I just wanted to let you know that my colleague, Dan Bailey from Pierce Atwood, is joining us remotely. And when we get to the section on conditions, I just wanted to leave him some space to explain to the board why we are going through the process of wordsmithing. And, we've tried to make it as straightforward as possible, and I have, we'll have paper copies and digital copies to assist with that. But I just wanted to throw that programming note in there, please.
We understand that you and Mr. Bailey work very hard to earn every penny that you are having your client expend on everything, and understand and respect that. And so that's fine. We'll take as much time as we need to. However, tonight isn't for the sections where there may be disagreement or the need for us to evaluate and process your thinking, and I think we'll identify those areas that we'll revisit at our next meeting and see how much we can accomplish in terms of taking things off the table and then focusing on what we can look at, with the idea, in my mind anyway, that our next meeting, we'd be voting on the project. Okay? But we'll also do it in an orderly fashion, because we want to make sure that we're capturing everything in their buckets, so that we can come back and say, okay, well, let's look at this issue and let's figure it out. We also need to give due respect and attention to the numerous boards that have worked very hard to provide their definitive suggestions for conditions. So That's the way we'll work it through.
Okay.
With that, there was one question I had for you to sort of start. I wanted to do this, and this is something that maybe doesn't need clarification, but there are, besides the easement for,
Oh, yes.
what was the main, and that is still in negotiation, or are you still talking with them?
We are, and as recently as this afternoon, there were comments going back and forth, so.
Okay. Well, the other piece of it is that other easements that have been talked about, there were notes on the plans that say things
Yes.
like expand existing easement to property line, proposed easement, access easement, and proposed pedestrian and site distance easements from Apple Village, et cetera. So are those finalized? You have a,
No, they're not.
okay, so what in terms of easements are finalized?
No easements have been finalized at this point. With Apple Village. Oh, yes, of course, there are existing easements which have been part of the project, but those that are proposed on the Apple Village property, mainly the access, but yes, there are like a couple of sight line easements and sidewalk easements, I believe, or expanded right-of-way easements. Those, the applicant is talking with Apple Village about to the same extent as access. If those are not granted, they are, obviously, we'll have to come back to you as a modification, but there are workarounds to those that we would think would be a fairly straightforward, we would argue minor modification, but obviously that's the board's prerogative, whereas, so we're taking that risk. We're taking the risk that we don't get those easements and we have to come back to you on those small easements. The access easement was too big a one to take a risk on, which is why we tried so hard to present that as an option. And my understanding of the city solicitor and the planning board's comments is that, the planning department's comments is that we can proceed at our own risk with an application that includes those easements, so long as we have Apple Village's permission, which we now do.
You have the permission to apply,
Correct.
which you've done. So, yeah, I guess I'll have to, we obviously have to figure this out before the next meeting. I understand that you're saying that, yes, you have the ability to do that and have us vote on easements that don't exist. And, I don't know, Mr. Gomes?
My recollection of the opinion that we had gotten from the city solicitor is that in her opinion, the applicant could not apply for a permit over land over which they did not have the permission of the existing owner. They now have that permission. And, there's not going to be a building permit issued for work that goes onto property that is not under the control or, over which the applicant doesn't have some sort of property interest, whether it's an easement or full ownership, obviously. But that is not a limiting factor on our ability to consider and approve the project. It would be the next stage in that process, which would be building permit, et cetera. Is that fair to what you understand, Ken?
Yes. As my understanding.
I did it perfect.
My understanding, yes.
All right, I just wanted to, as long as we're not going to fall into the trap of not having control over anything that's significant. You're saying they're insignificant?
I'm saying they're at our risk.
These easements in question are not project breakers like the other one is. It's a sidewalk that basically cuts off a cattle path and expanding some site distance easements and expanding the easement to add some additional sidewalk. It doesn't change the scope of the project, the scale of the project.
Doesn't change traffic flow, it doesn't
Correct.
change you know, pedestrian flow, that sort of thing. Yes, Wayne?
Those other easements would affect mitigation of traffic flow and parking issues, right?
No,
They would not?
no.
Sightlines, to me, okay.
Well, and if we don't get those easements, we have to come back to you.
Yeah.
You'd come back and
We
then
can't,
we'd
we
figure
can't
it
go
out.
forward without them, so we're
Is-
saying, please proceed on the
I-
assumption that we will
So-
I
get them.
felt the responsibility to ask the question and put that out there so that we can get something
Yeah.
back on the record from you in terms of your position on the easements. And you're saying, what I'm hearing is, they're minor easements, they're not anything that would cause a significant issue. It would be a minor modification request to come back to figure out what to do about a particular small issue, is what you're saying.
Yes, that's our,
Yes?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm
Sure.
sorry. Just, that's up on screen if you want to. It's this, kind of like this path here and the expansion of the easement for this sidewalk here. And site distance easements for this intersection, which there's workarounds for, as Attorney Zamasco was saying.
Okay.
We don't have to belabor this point. I feel like we're moving the ball a little bit. You know, what we said 2 months ago was that they needed to get written permission from the current landowner. They have that written permission, and now it is proper for us, according to the legal opinion that we got, to review this, right? So, anyway, like I said, I don't want to belabor it further.
Yeah, my understanding was it was permission to apply,
It's right
so,
there.
yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, I did read that. Okay,
Being filed while negotiations and potential easement agreement over a portion of the applicable property, that neither this consent nor the grant of site plan approval shall be construed as obligating the owner to grant an easement agreement.
okay. Okay, before we get into conditions, if you don't have anything else, I'd like to invite members of the public to go to the podium, and we're looking for new questions. It could be new since our last meeting, okay? So if you've written a letter and you want to amplify that and talk, knowing that the applicant has already hopefully answered that, then, but so that we can hear where you're coming from, that would be good. When you go to the podium, please say your name and your address, and there we go.
Hi, Patrick Knight, 4 Duck Pond Road, Beverly, Massachusetts, Unit 202. My first concern, I know some of this, my letters came in after our deadline in which we were going to do, but all of these plans were put in after our deadline, so we weren't really given that much time to respond. One concern that jumps out at me the most is when I looked at the new storage, the new snow storage areas. I didn't see this before. I don't know if this was always in there, but one of the snow storage areas, snow transfer stations are put, which is page 22 on the, I think the architectural plans. I'm not 100% sure. It couldn't be any closer to our window. And this snow transfer station is where it's going to be plowed, stored there while the tractor trailers come in, and then that's going to be put in by backhoes and then carried away to another location. Originally, we were told this will be done on the property itself and stored across the street. And with this front entrance, there's no issue with this, and you're not going to have a problem with it. Now I look at this, this snow transfer station is approximately 35 feet from my window. I'm wondering, what was the purpose to put it in that exact location? It seems like, first of all, this snow transfer station is on the back side of your retaining wall. on our side of the property and on top of a hill that's approximately 25 to 30 feet above my door. That's a distance of 35 feet away from me. 35 feet in the air is where the pile will start. I need to know why it was put there. Why was this spot chosen? I had a meeting with Tim Corcoran about a month or two ago where we looked at exactly where I live. We stood in that exact spot where that pile of snow is going to be, where I showed him my window. If you could expand that. And then the other picture I showed you, I sent in, shows exactly where Cherry Hill condominiums. This leaves it out, but right there behind that bush is where we are. 25 feet, 30 feet. The elevation of that is approximately 10 feet above your ground level. My back door is 25 feet below your ground level. This is just going to pour down on top of us. All the snow that you've plowed from your driveways, all the treated snow, all the crap is going to be taken by truck and brought around your door, your wall, and stored on our side of the property in our dirt. How was that spot chosen? You've got 12 acres of land. All this snow was originally going to be in your parking lots and then transferred across the street or to another location. Now what you're doing is punishing us by storing that snow on top of us. This mountain will be how high? If it starts 35 feet above my window, then the pile goes up higher all night long. Trucks, plows, backhoes, everything you can imagine is going to be going through that spot to take care of that transfer station. You've chosen a spot within 10 feet of your property edge and 35 feet from my window. All of our bedroom windows and doors are in that little valley. And if you're able to look at that last picture I showed you or sent you, that email, it shows all three together. It shows Cherry Hill condominiums, it shows where your snow storage is, and two pictures of exactly how close that is to us. Hopefully you're able to bring that up because we need to know why that spot was chosen and why those other two spots were chosen. No other spots. Now those other green areas that you'll see, those are closer to the pond. That's all gonna just drain into the pond down below. I'm not sure if the Conservation Commission is aware that you're crossing over some lines there and that all of this snow is gonna melt into that area. But I know they were told that it's all gonna be moved across the street and then moved away. Not stored there waiting for trucks to come and haul it away with backhoes all night long. When I asked about that in the past, snow removal, I was always told, this is the back entrance. There's not gonna be a problem. All these cars are gonna go across the street. There's a front entrance. Now we've changed, and this entrance is now proposed to be the main entrance. So this is all night long. Snow plows, snow trucks, delivery trucks, all night long, all morning long. 330 units here, and you want this to be the main entrance. My other question is, the back entrance leading in from Apple Village, will there be any restrictions whatsoever? Any gates, any no please don't uses, anything at all restricting them from that?
Could you be a little clearer with that respect?
Okay, right now originally there's supposed to be three entrances, Trask Lane, our entrance, Cherry Hill condominiums, and the entrance to the other way of the senior housing at Apple Village. That's going to be now the second entrance. Will there be any restrictions on that entrance?
I'm going to answer the second question first, which is for option B, there will be no restrictions whatsoever on the Apple Village access, right? That's what we're talking about tonight. I don't know, our engineer, Joe Pesnola, was going to be joining us if he could remotely, but he's got multiple hearings tonight. I don't know whether he's on there. Can you
haven't seen
see?
him.
Ken? So he will be joining us, and Mr. Knight, we'll have him address your question
Okay.
about the why there.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
He's not there.
Can we just?
I do have one other one if you want to.
I just wanted to clarify on the snow issue. I see green in various spots around the property. Is there anything distinct about the particular ones close to the Cherry Hill condominiums, or are those just areas that were designated to plow snow?
Ken, could you zoom in? The green is snow storage area, correct?
Yeah, I didn't
Correct.
see transfer. That was my other
I don't know.
That's a very important distinguishment, because, and that's intended, the plows need to push the snow in certain places, and the plows coming around that corner over that and it's not 35 feet above, that retaining wall is maybe a foot in that location. So snow would be pushed into that area, that very small area, snow storage in that very small area. That's what the plan shows.
The only issue with some of that is one of the conditions of approval from DRB is that there's going to be a screening fence on the top of that.
Let's start right there. We can look at that, Ken.
Yeah,
We'll
the
find-
whole
we'll
way
find
around it.
It's a tiny area.
And I believe, but it's literally the whole way around that wall. So that would include the green snow storage area here and here. So when I brought that up with Mr. Pesnola, he said he would talk about putting gates in the fence or whatever to,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just want to be clear about what spot you're addressing.
Exactly. He's
That one.
got the arrow.
Okay, so that,
Because we're at that little
His house is
square
right
to
here.
the left of it. We're 20, 30 feet from that spot. It doesn't show, they don't have our building there, but if you show the other email,
That one?
No, the email I sent you that shows it has 4, yes, that is the email, I'm sorry.
so,
The very first one. I'm sorry. Thank you. Nope. Go back, please.
That's your
Oh.
first,
All right.
Yeah.
See that one? Click it, the very
can't.
top.
I can't click on it, unfortunately. It's just,
Can you see Cherry Hill condominiums there? That's the same spot.
so this very, you can't really see it,
All right.
unfortunately. There's a
But
very
that's where
faded-
we
There's
are.
a very faded line right there. What the hand is pointing is the corner of the building. The road is right here. And I gotta find, we could probably pull it up better on a plan, but it's.
Right, or in the picture, you could see it also. That's how close it is to us, either one of those pictures. That's my door, right there. There's 2 flags. That's where we are. That's where we stood. Tim and I stood in that first flag to show where I live, and that's where the snow pile is now going to be. It's going to be up all the way downhill and flood our valley there. And not to mention the noise from these, storing it there, transfer station. Move it away from our door. This is our
What do you mean by
window.
transfer station?
Okay, if we can do this, I'm
sorry.
gonna, as chair,
Sorry.
I'm gonna ask that we do sort of a step-by-step conversation, because we have the applicant getting up, we have Mr. Knight talking, we have 3 hands up, and so anyway, I just ask that we slow it down just a little bit with the conversation. So we've seen the picture, we know where the location is, and when the engineer comes on, as part of the questioning and talking with them, have him explain what is meant by this area, what's it used for, you know, how often it would be removed, obviously, depends on the amount of snow, things like that, but we'll get a better sense from the engineer what that is and what any solution could be to it.
Does it need to be there is my biggest question.
And that's a question that we will ask.
I appreciate that.
Okay. And then Wayne had his hand up, and Ellen had her hand up, and George had his hand up. So, okay. So we're going to go to Ellen first, and then Wayne.
Either Ms. Masco or Mr. Mahoney, what is the size? Sorry, Kim. What is the size of the area that Mr. Knight is speaking to? Can you give me an idea, Peter?
Can our engineer answer that? I hate to
Okay,
give you a
that's
bad
fine.
number. It's
Okay.
not, I mean, you could look at it in perspective to a couple parking spaces.
That's why, that's.
Real
Very
quick,
small.
real quick. This is
Thank
20
you.
feet right here. There's a 20-foot dimension, so
Thank
that's
you, Ken.
pretty, 400 square feet.
Well,
Yeah.
that's, thank you, Mr.
20 by
Paulson.
20.
That's, thank you.
Wayne.
Wide.
My question
goes
too,
up.
my question too also goes to the logistics of the site. I don't recall that there was a significant rise in topography of 35 feet. I just don't remember that. You're referring to a valley between the tree line and the building.
Ready for that?
Yes,
So if you
please.
look at their plans, they have ground zero as their ground floor. Then when you look at the driveway, our front door is 19 feet below ground zero. You're able to look at the plans. Our front door is 19 feet below ground zero. We walk in my door, I go down 6 feet, and that's where my back door is, 25 feet. Now you look at this hill from my back door, and it rises up higher from there and goes up to their ground zero. My back door is 24 feet below their ground zero.
Okay, and from the tree line, it then drops significantly toward the pond.
Exactly.
And I don't remember exactly how many feet that drop is, but it's significant from that point
Yes.
down. And that's the,
60.
and that area would be completely fenced, correct?
Hold. Got to get this to cooperate. So this wall right here
Yeah.
is basically 0 feet high. It's a 100-foot elevation, a 100-foot contour. It starts to gradually go up. It becomes a 5-foot wall at this point. And then a 12.5-foot wall here. And by the time it's here, it's 21 feet high.
Okay,
The existing grade slopes down towards the pond that way. So this where it says bottom of wall here, BW 91.5, that's basically the existing ground elevation. 97 would be the existing ground, so it's going downhill that way.
Okay.
Towards the pond.
thank you. And just to verify, this area in question is not a transfer station. Snow will not be removed at any time from this location once deposited here. Is that correct?
Correct, snow storage. The snow storage area,
Storage area.
not a
Thank you.
transfer station, transfer area.
Thank you. That's enough for me.
You're saying transfer, I don't understand that.
Please address that.
No transfer, it's storage. It'll be pushed there, it'll melt. Next storm, it'll be pushed there, it'll melt.
So it's always going to melt on top of us and down into our valley. That's what whether it's transferred and stays there, it's going to melt into our valley. It's above us.
Wayne?
I've said this many times in my years here, but I'm not a hydrologist, but snow deposited there, if it's on one side of the peak, will go one way, and the other side will go the other way. I think what you're suggesting is that the snow deposited there will go, some will go to the pond, and some will go to your back door. Is that what you're suggesting?
If you look at this hill, most of it will be going, where this is, this will all go to our back. You'll
but
see
you-
the rise continues up this hill.
Okay.
All of this storage will go to our back door. And we have a little valley there, which you'll be able to see in the pictures.
But-
Where we stood, and then it goes down, and our doors are all down below this little hill that they're planning on storing it on top of.
Okay, because you also referenced that snow melt would go into the pond.
That's on the other, I'm sorry, on another transfer
Oh,
station.
okay.
If you look at it, there's this one, and then there's another one on the outside.
Yeah.
There's several parking areas.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I should have clarified that.
There's a lot of clarifying to be done. The site as it exists is quite complex, as we all know. And
Right.
when we superimpose on top of that the projections of what would be, then keeping it all straight is challenging.
I know.
At best. So thank you for that clarification.
And I appreciate everyone's time and help. I'm doing my best too, because I'm a regular guide. I don't know all this stuff.
We all make that claim.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Knight. And when
There
the
is-
engineer comes back on, then we'll ask questions of him.
The other concern I've brought up several times but never gotten an answer is the traffic queue times leaving our driveway. We've done traffic studies, we've done certain things, but we've never once done a report on Duck Pond Road. You're gonna have 200 cars per hour coming out of there, and we don't have the right-of-way. We're gonna be crossing over in and out. What will a queue time be leaving Duck Pond Road? We've got traffic calming measures, but nothing to get us out of the door.
Yes, Ms.
So,
Masker.
first of all, we do have that information. It's in the August 7th submittal, where there is a full traffic capacity analysis presented just for the intersections of Duck Pond and Trask and the intersections of Manor Road and Trask. I think we have Rebecca Brown.
She's got her hand raised.
Okay. And she may be able to refer you to that, show you where that already is and explain it.
Yeah, actually, if I can share my screen with you, I can show you where that is. That is in that August 7th memo. Let's see. There we go. So hopefully you can see my screen now. All right, perfect. So this is what was included in that August 7th memo that Miranda just spoke about. And that is showing an analysis of the Trask Lane and Manor Road and Duck Pond Road intersection during the weekday morning, weekday evening peak commuter periods, and the Saturday midday time period. We did this both with option A with the access easement and with option B without the access easement. And in all conditions, you can see that if there's a level of service A for traffic coming out of Duck Pond Road, and the queues, there are only one vehicle long on Manor Road and two vehicles on Duck Pond Road coming out of there.
So that study says during rush hour, it will be two cars queue time. That's what you're saying. During rush hour, it will only be,
There will be a maximum of 2 cars waiting at any time to get out of Duck Pond Road. And the amount of delay that they'll experience, so the amount of time they'll actually sit there waiting, will be just under 4 seconds.
do you anticipate the same thing getting out of the parking lots for these particular buildings? This is going to be they're all faced in different directions. It's not going to take much to throw this into chaos, so.
Yeah, so I would expect actually less of a delay coming out of the two parking lot drive aisles connecting to Duck Pond Road, because the traffic volume on Manor Road is significantly higher than the traffic volume on Duck Pond Road.
I strongly disagree, but you're the professional, so I guess I have to sit by with what you say.
And we did have our peer review expert look at the numbers and is in agreement with what the applicant's numbers are in terms of queue time and their estimates, you know, all of that.
In the past, we've talked about some sort of reviews if this is inaccurate. If in 2 years after the building, we find out we're just waiting for a half an hour, we're getting run over, and that's another concern. These people are gonna be hitting us. We're gonna be.
Post-build, the plan now, I believe it'll be a condition that the applicant has agreed to is a post-build traffic study to look at the volume, what's happening at all these different points, as well as, you know, looking and asking if residents would be interested in a shuttle service and that sort of thing.
I know that this new entrance changes the dynamics of the parking issue that I've brought up in the past with people from their units parking in our lot. Did we say that we were gonna have stickers on your vehicles so that we're gonna have, and are we gonna be able to just call your unit to have each one of these?
Part of the special permit application and conditions include residential sticker program.
I'm just trying to make sure that this transfers into the new.
As well as additional signage stating that this is Cherry Hill parking only.
Yeah.
Thank you. I do remember that, and I'm just trying to make sure it transfers into each particular.
Yes, Wayne?
So with respect to your concern, do you anecdotally, do you experience wait times, queue times now from Duck Pond Road to Manor Road at present?
No, we don't even see another car there. This is just, so we're only 35 units, and we never see a car, there's just zero queue time. I think we've all done the trips down there. We have zero queue time. That's why I'm trying to see later on if we have them. It's strictly a result of this particular.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Nate.
Good evening, Karen Johnson, 4 Duck Pond Road, Unit 206. I want to make one comment about that snow storage. As far as the geology of that, right beyond where their road is going to be, the way that hill is above us, it is ledge, and bedrock is exposed there. So there's no dirt on that, a big area of that for any of that snow to melt into. It's rock. Just so I can just bring that forward in that regard. So my other questions are, whoops. In regard to the easements that we were speaking about earlier, could you please have the town solicitor review those and put in writing his assessment of that situation so that we have a document that states that he knows how that works?
I don't understand your
So you were
ask here, I'm
talking
sorry.
about, and you asked Mr. Gomes if that's what he understood the way that it worked. And he said that, I thought you said something about that's what you understood the solicitor to mean when he spoke about it?
Not necessarily what the easements are for, but the process of approving the plan without the easements being already in place.
Correct.
That's not,
So your
Easement
solicitor
language.
can't, can your solicitor state that for the record? That we all understand that as we are speaking about right now?
that's something the board would have to vote on to ask the solicitor to do, so
Okay.
that would be the board's decision.
Okay, just good to have it on record. Okay. My other concern is in regard to the sidewalks on the Duck Pond Road. When Mr. Dirk reviewed the new access plan through Duck Pond Road, he did recommend to have a sidewalk there. The letter from Pierce Atwood states that a sidewalk there would be impractical. Could you please explain your use or definition of the word impractical as it applies to this situation? What does that mean, impractical?
Well, first of all, I think just to clarify,
Yeah.
for that particular sidewalk, the applicant has agreed that if Cherry Hill Condominium agrees to provide the access, the applicant will build the sidewalk. So that, the original, I'm not sure, there are a couple of sidewalks that have been in contention, so I think the original objection was that it was impractical to require building the sidewalk on property that the applicant does not control. However, parking and traffic felt strongly that that would improve the project, and so we agreed to work with Cherry Hill Condominium to try to gain access so that we can build a sidewalk.
Well, you can build it on your land, not ours.
I'm sorry?
That shouldn't be our burden to have a sidewalk so that you can provide safety for the traffic that your project is going to generate. That's on you guys to do your own sidewalk. I
Well,
mean,
that's
I know
your-
you don't have the place to put it. I know that.
Right.
But it's not practical to have a road that's going to be used by pedestrians that has no shoulders and no sidewalk. That's impractical. That's not safe.
Am I understanding so the applicant has, I believe it's also a suggested or a condition in parking and traffic is looking for option B, which is what we're talking about this evening, is to have a sidewalk there and along Duck Pond Road. And the applicant is saying that it would build it if the association, if your association, gives them the permission to do so. So I think we're close and not in opposition, unless you're looking at it, the sidewalk not to be on the Cherry Hill condominium side. And in that case, I'd have some questions about why you wouldn't want it there for the safety of residents and such, so, I don't know.
It is.
Am I
we're
on target
not-
here, or-
We're not getting a benefit from this development. They are. That should be their burden to bear, not our burden to bear, or our liability for future to have a sidewalk there. That's public safety. That's what sidewalks are for. It's not our burden. They created the traffic, not us.
Wait a second, Mr. Knight. So your point is taken, and so I think we understand your point.
Okay, so also Mr. Dirk agreed that it was impractical. What criteria did he use when he changed his mind from recommending a sidewalk to saying that it wasn't necessary?
At that point, I think he was talking about a sidewalk near or adjacent to the retaining wall on the other side. I could be wrong on that, saying that it didn't make sense to have a sidewalk there because people would be crossing the street without it. And Rebecca perhaps can help us out here. Yes, Ms. Brown.
Yeah, so we did have discussions with Jeff Dirk regarding that exact subject. And what he reported in his follow-up letter, as well as what he said to the Parking and Traffic Commission, is that really the concern there was slowing traffic down so that they're more aware of the fact that pedestrians are crossing. So what we did agree to do was put in 2 speed humps. And one of those, or excuse me, 2 speed bumps, not humps. And one of those would be a raised crosswalk that would allow for pedestrians to get over to the parking spaces that are on the opposite side of Duck Pond Road from Cherry Hill. And he was satisfied with having those 2 speed traffic calming devices, that would be adequate to slow people down. In recognizing that a sidewalk may not be feasible out there unless we can actually construct it on Cherry Hill's property. And just to clarify, I understand the concern about, that this is a condition that's being created by this project, but the pedestrians that we're talking about are the pedestrians coming from Cherry Hill who are crossing the Duck Pond Road to get to their own parking lot that is on the opposite side of the street.
What about the children that go to the school bus? They're not going to their parking space. They're going to the school bus stop at 7:30. The average that Rebecca calculated for the traffic is over like 4 hours, but the concentration and the numbers go up. The school bus, one of them comes at 7:30 in the morning. That's when the traffic's at like 300 cars an hour. How are those children going to get to the school bus safely?
Yeah, and so if that sidewalk was there, it would pass along the side of Duck Pond Road down to the intersection with Trask Lane and Manor Road, where there would be a crosswalk provided with the rectangular rapid flashing beacons as well to get them over to the opposite side of Trask Lane for where the bus stop would be located.
Yes, if there was a sidewalk, but we're saying there is no sidewalk, so there's no if on the sidewalk, right?
Correct. If there's no sidewalk there, then the students would do exactly what they do today. And they would walk either along the edge of the roadway or up on the vegetated area next to the roadway.
So you would feel good about having your kids do that with 300 cars an hour going by? Is that practical? Is that safety for pedestrians or children? Really?
With the traffic calming measures that are proposed out there to slow the traffic down, yes.
Okay, so 2 of the traffic calming methods are to have stop signs at the end of our parking areas on our property. How about stop signs on the traffic coming from Site A somewhere?
We don't have those proposed. Those weren't something that was requested by Mr. Dirk. He had recommended having the speed humps instead, which we will have those, which will significantly slow down the traffic as it's passing through. It's very difficult to travel over those going more than 15 miles an hour.
Okay, I did see that stop signs were located on the plan that was presented at the parking and traffic meeting that I attended. Did you see those signs?
Yes, you're talking about stop signs on the 2 driveways coming out of Cherry Hill.
Right, we don't have those right now. So you're
Yeah, it's really
suggesting
more
that...
like an assumed stop condition right now, similar to what you would experience in any parking lot. Oftentimes, it's sort of an assumed stop condition when it's low volume and they're not actually striped or signed for stop. But because there's going to be an increased volume, that's why Mr. Dirk was recommending that we actually put in those stop signs.
But you don't own that land. That's our driveway, so you guys should have it on your portion, wouldn't you think? Not the burden on us to provide a sidewalk or a stop sign?
Well, so it's already basically operating under stop control now. There just isn't a sign out there for it.
Correct. But there's also not 300 cars at the prime, traffic time where people will be driving to work or going to school or walking over there, when the traffic will be the heaviest, right?
So with respect, I would say that the question has been asked and it's been answered. Okay, Ms. Johnson?
Yeah? Okay, well, just consider that the burden on us for this, not them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Oh, Wayne?
The applicant indicated that a sidewalk would be acceptable on Duck Pond Road. Would that be the north side of the road, the south, or both?
It's on the side closest to their building.
That would be the north side. Yeah,
Northwest?
so that's the north side, which necessarily would be on Cherry Hill property.
Correct.
And there is no practical solution to do it otherwise.
Correct.
Okay, I can't envision that there would be an objection to providing,
Would-
to
hold on a second.
providing
If you do, hold on a
that-
second, after you're done, Wayne.
I don't imagine there would be an objection from Cherry Hill to providing a sidewalk which would improve safety all around. So that's all I have to say about that, I guess.
There's liability associated with ownership of a sidewalk.
I'm sorry, I missed that
And
statement.
so whose insurance is going to cover the liability associated with owning the sidewalk?
That's certainly beyond our scope.
That would be us, right? Okay, I had another, on that, the entrance that is through this.
Could you speak into the mic?
Oh, sorry about that. Yep, no worries. The entrance that is going to go through the senior parking lot, is that going to have a sidewalk there to provide safety for those people?
I don't believe so. Is there a,
There's
no
parking,
sidewalk there.
so where the,
there is a sidewalk there now.
no, there's a drive aisle with parking on both sides and people pull in for the senior housing. So they'll be backing into that traffic when that happens, right?
We expect that the final design is going to be worked out, obviously, with the folks at Apple Village, as well as, to make sure that it meets the fire department's standards and public safety standards, so.
Are there standard or published public safety standards that you're referring to? Are those are those agreed upon? Are they just assumed? What is that?
Can I try?
Yeah.
So that is one of the things that the city's peer reviewer is hired to do, is to review both the pedestrian and the traffic circulation. We specifically, at the board's request, asked Mr. Dirk to come back and affirm that he had closely looked at the circulation within this portion of the site. So he's looked at it not once, not twice, he's looked at it 3 times, because then he looked at it with option B as well. So there has been a review. There are engineering standards that both Rebecca as the designer and Mr. Dirk as the reviewer are responsible for.
Okay, I saw the ones for Duck Pond, but I didn't see his review for that area, so I will look for that and go over it again.
For that area, my memory is that it had to do with sightlines, stop signage, actually painting on the ground. If there could be a location for a stop sign, things like that. There was not any conversation about the need for a sidewalk in that particular area.
Okay, maybe a crosswalk would be suggested for the people trying to get, just as like in Cherry Hill, people trying to get from one side of the parking lot to the other. Just a thought.
And, do you know, and parking and traffic also looked at all of the areas, not just for traffic, but
Right.
for parking, for pedestrian
Right.
flow, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Knight, you have to be at the podium by the microphone.
Patrick Knight, 4 Duck Pond Road, Beverly, Mass. I just want to address that sidewalk issue. As you're looking at Duck Pond Road, let's say facing out our units, our buildings on the right, it's a slope that goes straight downhill. There's some coverage there, there's some trees there that would be the only coverage between us and this new road. It's a slope that goes downhill. There's no room for a sidewalk. It is literally the edge of the road and then goes downhill. My window is, again, approximately 15 feet below ground level. It is we're on a hill, so the front is this level. I go down a level, I go down a level. That's my lowest level. There is absolutely no room for a sidewalk. It is all foliage and coverage. This isn't flat ground. You would have to rip out all of our trees, all of our buffer zones between this in order to build a sidewalk. We would have to lose everything in order to make life easier for them. We would be miserable. Please take a picture of this if I could find one in my own. There is no room for a sidewalk. I just wanted to make that clear. We're saying, well, why don't we just allow it? You would have to rip out trees, all of our bushes, all of our coverage in order to put in a sidewalk there. We have ledge, blasting, dynamite, 10 feet from our windows in order to put in your sidewalk.
Yes, Wayne?
I think you're referring to the southern end of the building of 4 Duck Pond Road, where there's a stand of trees. I think that's the area you're referring to?
If I could show you on the screen. Right in that bush, that's my window. That corner unit is my window. All of that is brush and coverage and buffer zone.
So, Mr. Knight, I've spent, I don't know if anyone from the audience has seen me. Actually, I think I waved to someone the other day when I had my beat-up gray pickup truck with me. But I walked up and down that area on that grass, not from all the way up close to the arc, the curved road, but more like between the two parking areas, and there, all the way out to Trask, right? Walking along those to see whether or not, something seemed feasible or workable or something like that. I am not an engineer. To me, that was for safety, for people to be able to cross Duck Pond to where you had your cars there, or during snow periods when you're having to park up there and then come back down, for school children who are walking to that intersection so that they could find a way across and things like that. It seemed to me that a sidewalk in those areas, maybe not the entire
I would
length,
agree with you there.
is something
This is a
that-
different world on this building. It's straight downhill. It's a totally different view.
But you would be able to walk, for example, to the you'd walk to the sidewalk from the parking area, for example, up towards Duck Pond Road to that. I know the area you're talking about, where it does go all the way down. I'm just saying that at least part of the way, it seemed like, to me, a sidewalk could make sense and could be helpful. But I also know that I'm not a part of the association, and that's, it sounds like something that the association would have to make some sort of decision.
Would you have to build sidewalk?
And
Would
Rebecca
you
has
have to
her,
build it up?
and Rebecca has her hand up. So Rebecca Brown, yes? Do you have something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify the area where we're talking about this sidewalk that Mr. Dirk recommended, because it's not the area that's being shown kind of at the top of this plan that swoops around behind Mr. Knight's property. If I can share my screen with you again, I can show you where that area actually is located. So hopefully you are currently looking at a street view image. This is taken from Trask Lane. This is Manor Road here, and this is Duck Pond Road going back in here. So the area that we're talking about creating this sidewalk would be right along here on Duck Pond Road. And that would essentially provide the ability for people who are walking from Cherry Hill that want to get to their vehicles to have a place where they can walk here, stand on the sidewalk, and then check for vehicles that are coming along Duck Pond Road to be able to cross to their car, or to come down here to this intersection and connect to the sidewalk that will be running along Manor Road, and get access to the opposite side of Trask Lane from there. So it really is more a benefit for the folks living in Cherry Hill to be able to provide them an access point to get down onto Manor Road and to get over to their parking. And as I mentioned, right as vehicles turn in here, right before this parking starts, there would be a raised speed hump in that area. And then there would be another one right back here in this area as well, to slow traffic down as it's coming through here.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't talking in that second building, because that's a nightmare and it could never be. I just wanted to clarify why I was objecting to that.
Absolutely, yeah.
I would
And
also
you can
request
see
that
from
there
here,
be,
there aren't any significant trees. There's a little bit of brush in this area that would need to be cleared back, but there would not be any tree impacts or anything like that.
would you put in yield signs for the main road to our pedestrians, to our rows of cars? We shouldn't have to stop every time. I don't know, I just think that there should be some fairness to this, or we're gonna be stuck all day trying to get out of there. That's my suggestion. Some sort of a yield or some sort of a, other than these bumps, because once the line starts, I truly believe there's gonna be a line getting out of there, so. Anyway, thank you for
Yeah, so there
hearing.
will be a crosswalk, Patrick, that will be at the further, the speed hump that's further away. That will have a crosswalk on the top of it. So that will really bring people's attention to that, so that they will be forced to yield to anyone who is standing there crossing. So that will provide the right of way for pedestrians who are crossing over to their vehicles.
Okay, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, one more thing. Karen Johnson, 4 Duck Pond Road. How will the residents of your development access the off-site parking that will be located on Trask Lane? How are they going to walk over there?
Rebecca, I don't know whether you're able to, well, Ken, you have the plan.
Full-size one, like that's the.
And we've presented this at other meetings, but I don't know that we have the illustration here other than the plan, but.
Yeah, I may not have the most recent one, but I definitely have one that will show Where
Maybe
it
just
is.
talk to this one that Ken is showing now? Or do we need more? I think that pretty much depicts the access from Site A to the,
So are you saying a sidewalk that goes through your woods? Is that what you're showing, or something else?
It's follow the hand, the cursor.
Right, how do you get from site A down to where your cursor is? You're making a sidewalk
Yeah.
through the
Yes.
woods? Is that what you're saying?
yes,
And then you have,
partially.
pardon me? Partially?
I don't. What woods do you mean?
The woods that go by the pond, the part that you own over there, where you were going to have the access to Site A, are you talking about putting a sidewalk there?
Yeah, Ken, if I can actually share my screen again, I have a plan pulled up that shows the sidewalk highlighted. So for Site A, you can see where the sidewalk comes along here and connects up through. So we would have that crossover our parking lot and come right down here where it would come along Manor Road. And then it would be crossing over through this easement area right here to get over Trask Lane.
So from Site A, a paved walkway that comes down out of it, then down on the right side of Manor Road? As you go down
Yeah,
towards the,
yeah, on sort of the northerly side of Manor Road, yep.
and you guys, do you own that part? Or do you need an easement for that sidewalk?
We own the vast majority of it. We need small easements, which were the easements that the chair asked about at the beginning of the meeting. And note, this easement here is kind of mutually beneficial because our neighbor's sign is on our property. So this is an accommodation we've already agreed to, part of the overall easement negotiation.
Okay, thank you.
How you doing? Barry McCaffrey, 4 Duck Pond Road, Unit 231. You'll have to forgive me, I haven't been able to make a lot of the meetings due to scheduling conflicts, but I just wanted to, I'm not sure if it was already on record, but obviously I'm a member of the condo association. We just want to be on record saying that we greatly oppose this being a main entrance. We obviously have quite some concerns on it due to the sharp left nature of when you're coming down that road into our property, or, our property getting there. It just seems like a straighter flow of traffic going into Apple Village would be more logical. Obviously, that's out of our hands, but I just wanted to make sure that we're on record saying that we greatly oppose this being one of the, main entrance. That's all.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCaffrey. Are there any other members of the public here? How about online? No. Did you have one more question, Mr. Knight? One more question? I'm just,
We were waiting, sorry, Patrick Knight, Duck Pond Road, Beverly. We were waiting to find out why that storage area was placed outside of our door. I understand you're saying it will melt or whatever it is. Why was that spot chosen?
Waiting for our engineers to.
Right. So as soon as, I just
We're
didn't
still
want to
waiting.
miss that opportunity.
just so that can be on the microphone, we're still waiting for their engineer to appear. If the engineer doesn't come on during this part of the discussion, then we would look for some sort of a written answer to the question. So the applicant has said yes to that.
I just didn't want to miss out on that. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you. And Bill Squibb, Mr. Squibb, can you, yeah, there you go.
Yes, thank you. Have you received any of the figures on how much fill is going to be trucked into the site?
How much, what?
fill?
Okay, well, Mr. Scribb, could you also give us your address? Sorry for the record.
Sorry, Bill Squibb, 509 Cabot.
Okay, thank you. And then ask your question one more time, I'm sorry.
Have you received the figures on how much fill is going to be trucked in for the development?
I don't believe we have received that yet, but we have asked that question and are anticipating a response. So, yes.
Tim Corcoran, John M. Corcoran Company. So we've been in discussions with a couple of general contractors just to get some preliminary pricing feedback and various things in regard to construction of the project. And this is obviously a big topic in terms of site work. And we've gotten varying answers from varying contractors because it's really based on their means and methods of how they plan to attack the site work and the foundation. So there's been some varying views of how to accomplish that. And the feedback that we've gotten so far is one group has looked at it as a slight import site, and one group has looked at it as a slight export site. But slight being the key word, they don't anticipate any big import or export. It's very close to a balanced site, based on the conversations we've had to date.
So a balanced site meaning little, some would bring materials in and another would bring materials out. Is that what you're saying?
In terms of balance, meaning not that there wouldn't be this overwhelming import or export either way, that it could be managed on site, those kind of site work activities with what's there.
And by on-site, are you talking about on-site within Area A and within Area B? Or are you talking about having movement of materials between the two sites that you have, which would still put volumes of traffic on Duck Pond, Manor, and Trask, that intersection in particular?
I think there's the possibility that they could move it from site A to site B, yes.
So that still might be part of the import-export equation.
It could be. We have not gotten into that level of detail at this point.
But again, that would be something that, that the less traffic, the less movement.
Sure,
Off,
understood.
that sort of thing. We'd be interested in those numbers as well. Okay, thank you. Mr. Squibb, does that help you?
It does, but I don't think the planning board should make any decision until you know how many cubic yards of fill are going to be trucked in or trucked out.
That's not our purview. However, a construction plan does have to be worked on with the city and agreed to. So that, I'm sure, will be part of the discussions that are going on.
I'm asking in the point that as far as traffic is concerned, are you going to have 10 trucks, 100 trucks, 1,000 trucks?
That's going to be part of the construction plan, Mr. Squibb.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And hours and weekends and, all of that stuff will be detailed. Any other questions, comments?
Excuse me, it looks like Joe Pesnola has joined us.
I'm on the phone.
Okay.
Is that him right there?
Well, it's not muted right now, so.
Maybe not. Maybe I spoke in error.
I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Joe.
Hi.
So we had some questions from Mr. Knight regarding the snow storage plan. And if we can call up that plan. In particular, there's one roughly 20 by 20 area that's adjacent to Cherry Hill. And the question is, can we explain why we've decided to locate that in that location given the proximity to Cherry Hill?
No, I mean, basically, when you come off of the end of the cul-de-sac on Cherry Hill, as we've described in the past, you've got that kind of looped driveway that does a kind of a 180. On the outside of that is a retaining wall that goes from 0 to 6 as it kind of turns through a quarter of that 180. And we will have the snow that's just from that strip there, that quarter turn, that'll be stored there, or that'll be plowed there. We had provided we had moved that entrance and moved the grading such that, and we're granting Cherry Hill an easement for their access to the rear, which is something that kind of exists now. There's a little chain and a grassed access road that goes out to their rear. So we're giving them that. So we'll have to keep that clear in the event that they need access, or over the winter. So I'm certain that the easement document will require that be not blocked with anything, including snow. So I think to protect Cherry Hill and the spirit of the easement that we're granting them on our property, we could have a condition that we not store snow within that easement.
And you're also saying that area is specifically, as the people are doing the plowing, things like that, are for the quarter turn there. So you're saying as you're heading from Duck Pond onto the ramp, if we call it the ramp, or the 180-degree loop, that it's just making that turn and pushing it straight and then backing up and continuing around. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly, Chairman.
Would you also?
Hold on one second, sir. We just have a couple of questions, follow-up questions here. Yeah.
So on your landscaping plan, you have that as trees on the other side of that? Sorry, you have on the landscaping plan that there's trees on the back side of that turnaround with that little wall. Those are going to be trees, so we don't have to look at that. So now there's going to be an area where you're going to put snow. You can't put trees there, right? So you're changing your landscaping plan too?
We'll have to balance that. I mean, we want to provide the 20-foot access. We want to provide some buffering or screening to the wall so that Cherry Hills softens that view. And then there'll be a small amount of snow storage. It's not a large area. We're not targeting this as a dumping area to bring snow from other places on site. It's more of envisioned as a windrow, similar to how the town plows a road, that you have it's an embankment that's just from that half of the road as you're making that quarter turn.
Okay.
Yes, we have a question here, Wayne, or a statement?
Well, just to again clarify, this was earlier in the evening described as a transfer station. Clearly, it is not a transfer point. Neither is it a disposal point for snow brought in from other areas. It's an area where plows will deposit what's at the front end of a plow. It's not carried in by truck. It's just what's pushed there by a plow from a small area. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Knight?
I guess I wasn't sure of that, and that was more the question, but you also stated that it wouldn't be a big deal to remove it and place it somewhere else. Would that be the case? I think I heard that. Would you be
Correct,
able
and
to?
that's why, yeah, correct. That's why I suggest that the easement language that we need to grant to Cherry Hill for your access, have some language that it's, that we don't block it with snow. Or anything. We won't block. If it's an access easement, we'd be violating the intent of the easement if we put anything in your way.
Question?
Question here from Wayne, yes?
Would it be possibly considered that that easement language would also limit the elevation of any snow that is deposited there, say limiting to 8 or 12 feet?
Certainly.
Thank you.
An easement document is an agreement between parties, grantor, grantee, and it has to be amenable to both parties to execute the agreement, so.
We'd love to see you just move it to another spot if it's not that big of an area, because we are concerned about the drainage and so forth. So if that would be possible, that would be the ultimate win.
Can you folks examine that?
Yes, and I think what you're hearing is there may be some flexibility because it's not a very large area.
Okay.
That's what I thought I heard. Thank you again.
Any other questions here or online? No? Okay. Yes, Wayne.
Well, I've got them on the line here. Where that easement or access is to the back side of 4 Duck Pond Road, there's a stand of trees presently, which may or may not preclude building a sidewalk in that area. Are you familiar enough with that to make a preliminary assessment whether or not a sidewalk might be feasible there?
And anything is feasible. It's just a matter of how much impact there is, how many trees need to be removed, and how much grading needs to be done. So we'd obviously need to look at it if we were to move in the direction of the sidewalk on Duck Pond.
Thank you.
Okay. So no one else is stepping forward, so I think that we'll conclude the public input portion of the evening and move to the discussion we have now. Does this discussion need to be, can we, I'm just trying to figure out procedure-wise. We continued the public hearing, do we keep it open during this discussion? Well, I'm saying continue it, but.
No, we don't, just keep it open for now. We don't do
Okay,
anything with it.
so we're going to keep it open while we go through the next portion of
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Might I impose a request of 5-minute recess?
that sounds good. Why don't we take a 5-minute, is there any objection? Without objection, we have a 5-minute recess. And a unanimous vote. And the board is back in session, so thank you very much, everyone, for the opportunity to take a little break, stretch our legs, get a little water, etc. Now we're about to enter into the discussion on conditions, but before that, I think one of the public speakers had an interesting note in terms of asking the city solicitor for some sort of a written piece on the question of being able to approve the project or not, but to approve the project without easements completely in place. And so I think that would be something that would be worthwhile to pursue. If anyone has a motion, I'd welcome it, and then we could have a discussion and vote. Yes? Okay. Yeah?
I was under the impression from Mr. Clausen's letter that the city solicitor had expressly said that the board could not vote on option A until there was a letter from Apple Village giving permission to the extent any portion of the site plan infringed on their property, that they would give permission for that. And that was the first, that was the prerequisite for considering option A. And that for option B, that same condition would apply, except that option B, she also requested that Parking and Traffic provide a recommendation.
Yep.
So I thought that had already been answered.
Well, the other piece, the request from the public was whether or not we had the city solicitor weigh in. Specifically, I think it had to do with the fact that we're moving towards a vote here on option B, when there were some ancillary minor easement details to be worked out and haven't been worked out. And whether or not that's something that we can move forward with was the question.
I think that's the same as option B, option A would have been. I mean, the city solicitor's advice was we could move forward with option A as long as Apple Village approved. I don't mean to be misstating it. That was my understanding.
That's a good point for consideration. I was looking at it more in terms of that's sort of a nuclear position in terms of a significant, huge change to the project, as opposed to you have different areas where you have a current easement, you're looking to expand it or define it differently, you know, that sort of thing. But, George?
I do think it's worth looking at Ken's letter from September 29th, revised October 1st. Under section 300-98C2 of the City of Beverly zoning ordinance, the planning board is unable to approve the September 30th, 2025 filed plans that depict the project with the Apple Village easement until the applicant can provide written permission from the owner of the property to apply for site plan review. Until the written permission is obtained, the planning board cannot vote to approve plans depicting the easement. That is, I mean, I thought this was kind of settled as well. So, you know, right, I guess I just put that out there.
So in your mind, is asked and answered? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying?
I guess, I mean, those were Ken's words, and I assume that was based off of, you know, internal city hall communications, right? You know, we have a procedure for asking certified questions if we are asked, if we're asked to do that. But like the zoning code seems fairly clear to me. So I guess that's my thought.
I guess it was never, because it was never voted on by the board, it was, an official opinion was never rendered. And then.
Wait, say that again?
It was never officially asked by the board. In order to get the way the solicitor's office works, in order to get an opinion from them, the board has to vote on it. So yes, this was discussed, but there was not an official city solicitor opinion on record for it.
I see.
Yes, George?
Can I suggest, I mean, we often are in some way interpreting our own regulations and not going to the city solicitor. This to me feels pretty plain text, but again, it probably, I mean, I guess it doesn't, it seems like we are not going to vote on this tonight, right? So, you know, worst comes to worst, we're gonna have this answer next month anyway, and I suspect the answer will be the answer that we suspect it's going to be. So from that perspective, it seems like there's a little harm done. I do worry about setting our precedent here of any time that there's any sort of question, we're delaying things a month, we're flooding the, you know, this is one time, I understand that, but I wonder about the next time and the next time after that, when we are very frequently interpreting our own regs, you know, using Ken's opinion, using our own, you know, ability to read language. So that's all I'd say on that.
Anyone else have any?
Are we gonna blow up?
Is that the, Councilor Crowley's assignment?
Have I gone over?
Yeah. There's a, for those watching live at home, there's a mystery beep happening someplace in the chamber, and there it is.
It's gonna
found
blow.
it and stopped. Again, Kim from BevCam comes through.
I'll just say, that's Councilor Rotundo's desk. He got out of here, you know, pretty quickly a little while ago.
Yeah. You know, I'm comfortable with the answer that we got. I'm also comfortable in the direction that we're headed in terms of the parameters that we have. And if we were to ask for this opinion and we got the same letter back from the city solicitor, what would that change in your view?
Nothing. I just, we're going to be continued until next month anyway, so at this point, we have been proceeding with the understanding, based on that correspondence, that this issue had been resolved. So I was somewhat surprised to hear it taken up again.
You know, additionally, I think that we have, I mean, one of the potential conditions is that you continue to work on, you know, trying to negotiate the easement and letting us know if there's a change, because I think that everyone is of the view that, you know, option A would be a preferred direction to go. So, if we're okay with where we are right now and we don't need city solicitor's view on it, I'm comfortable with that. I'm happy to hear if there's, where's Wayne? Oh, there's Wayne. Always interested in your viewpoint, sir.
Yeah, I think that the opinion has been rendered, and that we can proceed with the acknowledgement of that rendering, in my opinion.
Yep. So people are comfortable right now with where we are? Okay. So we're comfortable right now with where we are, so we don't have a motion to consider yet, and so we're going to stay where we are with it in this direction, because, okay, all right. Okay, so let's begin our discussion on conditions. Again, our goal here is not to definitively decide on each condition or group of conditions. It's to identify areas where there needs to be additional work, and where, in particular, members of the board may be split in terms of the direction, which means that we should give it more thought and between this meeting and next meeting, and to dive into the actual wording, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to use, and again, these are our decisions. It's not the planning board department. I mean, it's not the planning department's decision. It's not the applicant's decision. it's not anyone's decision right now except our own, in terms of the board and what we feel are reasonable and effective and necessary conditions to put on the project. Yes, Mr. Gomes.
Having said that, this board also has a history of being sued for deferring decisions to ourselves or other boards in later dates. I just want to throw that out there.
And one of those responsibilities is to the taxpayers of the city and to make sure we don't put ourselves into a position that we feel would bring unnecessary and losing litigation. And that's obviously an important consideration, so agreed. So we'll see how this goes. But we'll start off by using as a framework, just for our use, the document that's titled at the top, The Comments at Trask Lane, Potential Conditions of Approval. And it's the one that came from
It's actually the one that
Staff.
Attorney Zamasco just passed out to everyone that has.
Well, that one has the red lines that
Correct.
we're going to ask
Yeah.
for the applicant to talk about. We don't necessarily have to use that as the starting point.
Okay.
I would say that will, because I'm of the position right now that the starting point is what we have received from our city boards and commissions that put their time and energy in and have the responsibility of coming back and advising us on the conditions they feel are necessary, true, and deserved. So, yes, Wayne.
Those comments from our various commissions and committees, I assume have been incorporated by the applicant.
Correct.
Thank you.
And sometimes eliminated and edited.
Very
So-
clearly calling out those that we.
I understand, I understand that, but I'm just saying, our starting point in terms of the framework that I have is not the one that has the redlined edits on it already. Okay?
That's fine,
And
Mr. Chair.
what I'd like to do then is to have, as we go through, have you present issue by issue, group by group, your suggested changes to what our commissions and boards have provided to us.
So by paragraph or, well.
By section.
I'll let you lead the discussion, Mr. Chair. and
Thank you.
We'll respond. I would remind you that we can, it might be helpful to do it now, to hear from Attorney Bailey, just about the applicant's sort of, the reasons why we have offered you this red line, not in, and it's an overview. He's not going to go through condition by condition, but I think it would be helpful to identify the categories of items that we're concerned about.
That's fair.
Thank
So
you.
why don't we do that? So
So-
Attorney Bailey?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It seems you can all hear me.
Yep, if you could identify yourself and your position and.
Yeah, very happy to do so. My name is Dan Bailey. I am a partner in the land use department at the Boston law firm of Pierce Atwood. I think this is probably my first actual appearance before this board, but I have been attending all of these hearings via Zoom and watching them. And you have received, obviously several letters from me regarding various legal issues over the course of this proceeding. So, yeah, I just want to step in and make some general comments about the proposed conditions and why we have suggested revisions. Our comments fall generally into three categories. The first one's the easy one, which is conditions where we are proposing language revisions for clarification. I think we can all agree that we want this to be as clear as possible. And Attorney Zamasco in particular has really worked pretty hard at some of these conditions with Mr. Clausen to try and just provide clarification. I don't think there's any controversy over those particular conditions. It's just making sure that they're clear and well understood by the board and by Corcoran. The second category is, and this is where, I get very involved, because someday I am going to have to write an opinion to a lender that says, oh, this project has all the permits and approvals that it needs, and everything's fine, and none of the conditions will affect the ability of Corcoran to finance the project. So these are conditions where the applicant is willing to accept the conditions, but we need to work with the board. The problem is that some of the proposed conditions have contingencies on them. And contingent conditions are very problematic for financing because a lender can't put a number on those. We'll get to this tonight or maybe some other night, but sort of on the merits. But the classic case is we can't agree to conditions that require third-party approvals. Because if those third parties, and we've heard it, we've been hearing about potential crosswalks and other improvements. If they don't agree, then we're in no position to be able to complete those improvements. And then the third category are, and this is going to be the hardest one, and I say this with the utmost respect, but there are conditions that exceeds the board's site plan review authority. The board understands, the board has stated repeatedly that they understand that this is a by right project. It's in the staff report that site plan review of a by right project cannot be denied except under circumstances where the site plan fails to furnish adequate information. I don't think we're there. We've had many meetings about the amount of information. Your peer reviewers have accepted that. The other case where the board could deny it is where the site plan, although proper in form, may be so intrusive on the needs of the public that rejection by the board would be tenable. Again, going back to the peer reviews, there have been many of them. We've worked with the peer reviewers, and I think we've got to the point where the peer reviewers have said that changes to the project have been acceptable. So those like the broad categories. The devil is in the details, as we always say. So with that kind of overview, I'd ask that we turn it back over to Attorney Samasco and start probably grinding through the various conditions. I don't think we have, a lot of concerns with many of them, but there are 4 or 5, maybe 6 that we really do need to discuss. And as you said, Mr. Chairman, you may also need to discuss and consider and talk about them with your staff and maybe, have a further meeting to further discuss them. So thank you very much. And I'm happy to answer questions, but I think Miranda is in a much better position than I am to push forward with the particular details.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Bailey. Does anyone have any questions or comments of him? I think we're good, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, if it could all be that easy to go through here. The first section is conformity with site plan that contains, names, addresses, all that sort of stuff. The one thing is we do know is that this is site plan. That the set that we're dealing with is, internally at least, we're referring to it as plan set number 9. So those are the internally, the date revised, the latest date is November 10th, 2025. And they're the ones that you referred to too. internally, we have a folder, goes through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so it's the latest set that we have. And
That's just to keep everything in order because there's so much paperwork.
just so that we know what, for us to review as we're going through this, it's that set. And everything seems to be the same. I don't think, does anyone have any questions or edits or anything to that? Yeah?
Yeah, this has been correct. This is why the reason I asked for a revised plan set that had the same revision block date on every sheet, so we knew exactly which drawings and which sets would be the approved plan set. And this now is ready to go.
Okay. And then we come into the section on requirements of other officials, and basically, this is the section where we've received recommended conditions from various departments throughout the city. And we go through them. The first one is engineering, just giving a quick overview here. And then there are some comments from the planning department, the comment letter from the Department of Public Health. There are 2 from the Parking and Traffic Commission. There's the Design Review Board, and then the Fire Department. So there are 6 different sets for us to work through. And you have some edits to the preamble to that section, and then to the first set, Attorney Samasco from the city engineer. So if you could sort of outline those changes that you're recommending?
Would it be helpful if we shared this on the screen? We do have, I think, Ken, do you have a version of the red line? I think I do. And these are some extra copies.
Thank you. Give me 1 second. I don't mute the screen. I don't want people seeing my email.
It may not be essential, I just thought it might be helpful, but.
Give me 1 second. You did? That's not best. This is the one we got from Miranda today.
Rebecca might be able to share it. Okay, great.
Yeah, I can share it if you need me to.
I think we got it. Thank you.
We got it.
Do you mind, is it okay if our comments are viewable?
You could take them off.
Click your view button there.
You could go to view and say view.
I'm in an unlicensed product, though.
Oh. Can I ask, actually, it's all right, it's under review.
While the logistics are being worked out, can I ask a question?
Yes, Wayne?
Give me 1 second.
Part of what was struck out here says that the project is carried out shall address and satisfy. That apparently was a term that you were not comfortable with.
So while we're looking for this, I can give you the overview of what we did.
Okay.
So the concerning language here, this is a common condition. The concerning language was that to the extent the site plan does not already fully address. What we're asking for here in these comments is our understanding is now, everybody has reviewed the most recent site plan, and we want to understand specifically if there are conditions that haven't been met yet. So we're not having to guess at some of these comment letters, which, as you know, are pages long. So what we're, it's very difficult to keep track of compliance with conditions when you have them written in all different formats amongst different boards, and you know that because you've tried to draft those conditions, right? So all we're asking here, and the reasoning is, with respect to the engineering department, there was a November 2024 memo that was several pages long from the engineering department. Just this past month, or at the end of October, they came out with another memo that said, we've reviewed the plans, they meet the conditions except for the sewer line. We ask that conditions number 1, 49 through 52 be carried forward as permanent conditions. So we're happy with that. What we don't want is for somebody to point to something in the November 2024 memo and say, oh, wait, you didn't address that. Because our understanding is it has been addressed by these plans.
Excuse me, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Mr.
go.
Chair. There are several comments from those letters. While they would consider them to be addressed, they, plans as these are, as we're approving, are not constructible. Because there is a bunch of those comments, and they're in my letter too, which you've also struck, where we
the
talk
same
about
reason. I'm
completion of grading, and your comment in the response letter is noted it'll be waiting for a third-party review, and it'll be revised in an updated plan. They haven't been revised on an updated plan yet.
Then I think point well taken. I think all we want to do is sort through the items that have been satisfied versus those that are outstanding. And we need a better way to do that than just referencing the letter.
And I think that's the language that I switched that to, which you switched back, is language that we've used in OSRD plans before, which is, okay, some of these comments are addressed, some of them aren't. And that's what that language is meant to reflect.
And I understand. I'm not trying to be a pill
No,
here.
no, I'm not,
I
yeah.
totally understand. This gets exactly to Dan's comments about clarifying it,
Okay.
because he's the one that has to write the opinion. So I think what we can agree to do, and maybe you and I can work on it and bring it to the board, is enumerate those conditions that need to be called out specifically.
Okay.
And if we can do that, that's all
I
we're
already have a
asking.
list.
Okay,
Yep,
that would be great.
okay.
And
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. I'd say one of the interesting things about using the engineering letter as the first go-around is that she herself calls out there's three standard conditions. She calls them comments. They're called comments in her letter. Comments number 1, 49, 52. And it's unclear to me whether or not it's 49 and 52 or 49 to 52.
49, 50, 51, 52. and
Two,
what
yeah,
the
that's
dash,
right.
yeah.
That those comments are not just comments, they're also standard conditions that the engineering department has. So that we put in virtually, as you know,
Yeah.
all of our different decisions. So, but the rest of the letter are all observations, comments, requests. It's a whole hodgepodge, so I totally understand that. In cases, though, we would typically refer to the letter that we've received, the date that who it's from, et cetera, parking and traffic, from, January 1st and da-da-da-da-da. And if we have any, they're either the conditions that are recommended to us or the conditions and then anything that's changed from that.
Correct.
So that's, I think, the same thing that we're talking about here, right? You're
Yes.
saying that you don't want to reference the letters, but you want to pull the conditions out?
I think in this case, and maybe it's just because it's such a big project and there are so many conditions, I'm very uncomfortable just incorporating the memos wholesale when our understanding is we've worked hard to address a lot of the comments. But can be persuaded that there's another way to look at it, but I just want it to be very clear what are outstanding conditions and which things can be taken off the list.
How is this, this isn't the first large project that the world has seen. How is this typically done?
So in my experience, and again, what I have been used to with engineering is they submit a comment letter, the engineer talks with them offline sometimes within the the bounds of the public meeting. Sometimes there's another plan set, sometimes there's not. But then there's a second letter from the engineering department that says, you know, conditions X, Y, Z have been met, and these are the outstanding conditions, and then we reference that letter, like the most up-to-date, so that that's clear. Now, has that been done in 99.9% of the cases? I don't know, but in most of my memory, and I've worked on, you know, projects where there have been multiple engineering memos, and that's how I've typically seen it done.
Okay.
You know, this is a hard thing to wrestle with in the board's decisions generally, right? Incorporating these letters with lots of decisions. In this case, it's particularly difficult because there are so many pages of conditions that we want there to be some clarity as to which ones operate.
Yeah, so this is all about subject one, clarification,
Correct.
and not so much about contingencies, but it
Correct.
may also involve some contingencies.
We get to those later on, don't we?
But it's also
yes.
involved here.
Yes.
To some extent. It's not just clarification, it's clarification about the contingencies in some cases.
cases, correct.
Yeah, okay.
Additionally, I would say, though, and I'm not a lawyer, nor do I pretend to be, although I play one in a play one time, is that from the board's perspective and from the city's perspective, that when we're outlining conditions, for us to reference the source of those conditions is an important memorialization of the effort that we've gone into and what the roots of the condition are. So if they're conditions from the fire department, then they are conditions recommended to us by the fire department. Maybe we amend one of them, and, you know, that sort of thing. But typically, you know, that's an important part of our decision.
I'm not suggesting otherwise. I'm just suggesting clarity as to which of those conditions are outstanding. For example, the fire department letter went through condition by condition and updated them to indicate this has been satisfied, this has been satisfied. So we have that record, and that was very helpful.
But they're not satisfied anywhere else except in that letter in terms of us knowing it. We can't look at the plan and say that that condition has been satisfied, right? Can we? For every condition,
You're
can we?
incorporating that letter, however.
Okay, I thought you were asking not to incorporate the letter.
No.
Yeah, I was confused about that, too.
I'm
You are
sorry.
not saying that we
No,
don't.
I'm saying incorporate the Look, I recognize everybody's done hard work for this, and I'm not trying to skirt around that. I just want there to be, when the board refers to the engineering department memos, I want us to understand, have a common understanding as to which things have already been satisfied and which are really remain to be outstanding.
I suggest that none of us would object to any clarification.
Yeah.
So, great.
Okay.
So we can reference the letter, and then it sounds like you're also asking us to specifically call out the conditions, the specific conditions that have not yet been satisfied that are conditions for approval, of approval. So it would be something like,
Pretty much how
Yeah.
she has it worded.
Can,
Pretty much how she has it worded, but there's going to be additional ones because they all reference will complete it after third-party review or will complete for building construction drawings or something like that, whereas the engineering department is satisfied enough with those responses to approve the project. However, that work has not physically been done.
It's a lot of work.
It's not that much. I already have it done.
You have it done?
Yeah.
Okay, well, super person here is going to help us prepare. Well, does it make, with that in mind, does it make sense for, in the next several weeks, for this to be between staff and attorneys to work on an updated, mutually agreed to draft, and then to do part of what we were prepared to do this evening, and that's to say, here are the outstanding issues.
Well, from our perspective, transparently, that would be very useful. I think it would make for a productive meeting.
I think by doing that, we're actually doing what you said, which is finding, this is an outstanding issue, and this is the way to resolve it before we get to the next meeting.
Right.
All I'm saying is what we're doing is we're pulling out pieces from these letters that are that will be, instead of conditions number 1 and 4952, there's going to be additional numbers in there. So we're not talking about like changing conditions that's outside of like the public eye or anything like that. We're just clarifying which outstanding conditions should be included so that it's not as vague.
And then the conditions would still be grouped by topic, engineering, fire, et cetera. I mean, we do know, and maybe it makes sense for us to make sure that that you are on the same page coming into it, for us to go through each one of those sections and just to have a discussion about that. We do know that there were thorny issues coming down. I mean, there were 3 buckets here. The first one is just dotting the i's, crossing the t's, and saying, okay, we understand from the clear, specific legal perspective, this is a little vague, this can be tightened, that's fine. The second bucket are the conditions that require third-party approvals. Some of those, to me, it's just spelling right out that, that if it requires third-party approval, it can only be met if the other party agrees to it. I know that doesn't help you, but there may be a few cases here where we'll want that condition to be in anyway. Just sort of projecting. Sidewalk, for example. Or even if you agree to it, you've already said, I believe, that this requires agreement from, an association, and if that doesn't take place, then if you can't get that agreement, then that's not a condition you're going to be held to.
That's our position, and if I can jump in. So these specific items they were all mitigation that was requested of the applicant as a condition of approval. And in some instances, we agreed to it more willingly than not, but we ultimately agreed to do that work, including paving County Way and the sidewalk on Cherry Hill, and, sorry, I'm losing my mind here, the improvement or cutting in a trail from the site to Colgate Park. So all of those things we are willing to do as mitigation for the project. We can't do it unless people sign off, and that would be primarily the city of Beverly has to give us approval. We are not really worried about that. Everybody's been asking, but if for some reason there's an unforeseeable issue and the city says, no, you can't do that, then we need that condition to be at that point understood as being waived and no longer applicable. And the same with a sidewalk on somebody else's property that we think the Planning and Traffic Commission thought made sense, the peer reviewer thinks it makes sense, the board may think it makes sense, but Cherry Hill may not think it makes sense. And we can't control that, and we can't agree to a condition for the financing reasons that Dan mentioned that we won't be able to deliver on because we don't have control. And let me just say, it's different than those things that we are proposing on Apple Village's property where we don't have easements. We're doing that. That's part of our site plan. That's us coming to you and saying, hey, board, this is our site plan. We do need these easements. We're taking the risk that we're not going to get these little easements. And if we don't, we have to come back to you because the plan that you approved won't work. That's the distinction. These are off-site items that we are being asked to give as mitigation for the project. We are agreeing to it, but we can't make it happen without, cooperation from third parties.
But clearly spelling that out in the condition doesn't do that for you, or it does do
Oh,
that?
well, the issue is that the language here said if we don't get approval from somebody, we have to come back to the board to get a modification of our site plan, which there's no telling, that does not work. Because if somebody then decides that this sidewalk on Cherry Hill constitutes a major modification to the site plan, we're opening up a public hearing again at the last minute. And that's not financeable, nor is it, honestly, I think, fair under the circumstances.
Yeah. On the other hand, it's very difficult for us to opine on things that are based on those actions, if those actions never occur. So we're kind of a little bit stuck there.
Yeah, and again, the principal one, County Way, is an emergency access over Apple Village and part of the city property. I think the chances that there's a problem with that are quite remote. It's in everybody's interest for Corcoran to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars it's going to do in order to do that.
Yeah.
But if there's a surprise, we don't have control over that. We don't have the property rights. We don't have the property rights to say that we can do that, and it's not part of the project we originally advanced. It's something that's being required of us as mitigation. And there is case law that I'm sure Attorney Bailey can cite more rapidly than I, that, conditions that the applicant is not able to control are beyond the scope of a planning board and site plan review.
Yeah, these contingencies and easements are either coming from Apple Village or from the city, right?
Or from Cherry Hill.
Or from Cherry Hill. And have you kind of delineated what those are?
Yes.
And is there anything that can be done now to limit those questions? I mean, can the city preemptively grant any of that so there's less risk to you?
Well, we haven't, the work to establish the trail over to Colgate Park may require open space. It may require a golf course.
Yeah, probably.
And the city council, city solicitor.
Yeah.
I mean, these are long-term commitments, and Corcoran is making the commitment to do it.
Yeah.
But,
And acknowledging the risk. at the same
well,
time.
on those items that the city is asking us to do as mitigation off-site, we are not willing to assume the risk that somebody digs in and says no.
I see.
Because that would be a very easy way for somebody to stop the project, wouldn't it?
Is there language that can be inserted in these? And the other thing too is that maybe we just have to see where those are. And
I think we've kind of gotten off track from our plan here.
yeah, well, yes and no, because we're about to go through. But with that in mind, if we're going to bump into these in several different, this is outside of our control. We need, we've been asked by the city to do this. That's absolutely fine. I mean, it seems to me that the city is asked, and your risk of having them say no, don't do this, is slight, as you said.
I would agree.
But, in, a condition like paving roads that you don't have control over and things like that, obviously need to be able to have the approval of the folks that
Right.
that would own it, and this is a hypothetical here, right? But maybe there's language that you would meet that need for you if there's a contingent condition. So maybe you can think about that.
Well, I have suggested some language, which is that the condition is that the applicant uses diligent efforts to secure those third-party approvals. But if despite those efforts, the necessary approvals are withheld, and the applicant so notifies the planning board in writing, then the applicable condition, the applicable condition shall be waived. That's what the language that we are suggesting.
When you say notifies the planning board in writing, what would you be notifying them, the board of? Just that we used diligent efforts and they didn't work? Or would you actually explain
Of course.
what those diligent efforts are? And
I
can
mean,
we
I think
change-
that's.
And can we change language to
Yes.
clarify that, a spelling out of what these diligent efforts were?
Yes. I mean, for example, diligent efforts to obtain the permission for the cut-through to Colgate Park. We met with the Open Space Committee, we met with the Conservation Committee, we met with the city, we met with the golf course. We got to city council, and somebody said, and they said, I'll be damned if we're gonna do anything that assists this project. We would outline that in a letter. And I think, that's a fairly, and we can work on the language. That's a fairly common concept that you see, that, somebody is required to demonstrate that they have indeed taken diligent efforts to satisfy a condition.
I mean, it does sound, similar to when we have is this a minor or a major modification? And, we hear, I don't know whether or not, it depends if there are 25, minor modification, or things that don't work out, then, maybe that the sheer weight of it could make something major. But I'm wondering whether or not that might be language that makes sense, that notify the board and apply for a minor modification or something along those lines.
That's what they have, they suggested language is that we apply for a site plan modification.
Yeah.
You understand the risk is that somebody says, well, I think this is a major modification, and convinces a majority of the board to go along, then we have to reopen a public hearing on an issue that is required by the city for mitigation, that we have raised this objection from day one, that we will work with you and we will do our best to achieve it because it makes the project better. I mean, all of these things do. But we aren't able to do it. And I think it would be, it's too much risk as a practical matter for the applicant to take on as they go to finance this project. And I think, opens the door for a second look over and over and over again. And
Miranda,
Yeah.
can I jump in here?
yes, please.
Is this Attorney Bailey?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And, I don't want to be a skunk at the party, but I think it's important for me to point out that Massachusetts case law is very, very clear that under site plan review, particularly for an as-of-right project, the board does not have the authority to impose conditions which the applicant does not have the authority, the ability to comply with, because they're requiring, consents from third parties. And in this particular case, I mean, one of the things that is proposed in the proposed conditions is that we get consents from Cherry Hill. Well, we've heard from Cherry Hill, which is adamantly opposed to this project. I can't imagine we're ever going to get consent from them. And the Massachusetts courts are very clear that the board does not have the authority to require us to get those approvals. You know, the case, and we cited in our materials, it's VSH Realty. You know, we are more than happy to try diligently, best efforts, whatever standard we need to try and do those things. But what we can't do is agree to be bound by third-party consents. And, you know, the case law is pretty clear that we don't have to be. So I'll turn it back to Miranda, but, you know, ultimately my job here is to make sure that this project is financeable, and with, you know, conditions that might require third-party consents, it's not financeable. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, Darlene, yes. Darlene Nguyen, our planning director.
Yes, Darlene Nguyen, I'm the planning director for the city of Beverly. I just want to clarify, because I did not hear it being asked, but so at some point, somebody needs to make a decision as to what is diligent efforts. And so the proposal is to submit a letter to the planning board, and it sounds like you're saying we've said this is diligent effort, therefore it's waived. So I think the waiver language is perhaps inappropriate because it's not automatically waived. Somebody needs to make that decision, and the planning board has the authority to make that decision on their conditions on their decision letter. Otherwise, it cannot be left in the hands of the applicant to prove that their own efforts were diligent. So the planning board needs to agree with that or disagree with that. And, you know, I like the idea of automatically kicking it into a minor modification if it's a condition under these specific terms. But that's just my question is, who is going to be the one to determine that it's diligent efforts other than the applicant?
Yeah. So I think we could probably live with a condition that said it's definitely a minor modification. The problem is that we've proposed that as a condition with respect to other items here, including a change from option A to option B. And we've been told that the planning board cannot agree that something is a minor modification ahead of time. So we're trying to balance that. I don't think that that's true, honestly. I think the board could recognize that a trip back, given all of the circumstances, that change would be minor, but we've been told that that is not allowed, so.
That's a question I have asked of the city solicitor, and the answer I received was that this board cannot determine what a future board might decide or look like. This might be a completely different board. There might be 5 different members.
God help.
Are you aware of precedent or case law that would allow us to preemptively rule something to be minor in the future?
I'm not aware of anything off the top of my head, but I think there are probably look, I think my suggestion on this particular point, so that we make some progress tonight, I think perhaps we identify that I think this is something the city solicitor probably should weigh in on and help us get to a decision about how we deal with these conditions, because I think the city solicitor will understand the case law as we do, that it's beyond the board's authority to impose those conditions. We are agreeing to do our best to do it, but if we can't, then it's beyond the board's authority. So I think we've identified the tension here. I'm not sure that we're going to get to the answer this evening.
Yes.
I just wonder if there's, maybe to Darlene's point, not deferring to ourselves or a future, version of this board, because I will stress, this is literally what we got sued for on this exact parcel in the past, was deferring to future planning boards, the decisions, that should have been made at the time of approval. Facts may be slightly different, but that's what we got anyway. Maybe there's a way in which we define what diligent efforts might entail, whether that's talking to the relevant property owners over a course of time, or I don't know exactly what that looks like, but there may be some way of putting some meat on the term diligent efforts so that it's not a pinky promise. There's actually a paper trail and a record of engagement here that, might give folks on the board a little bit of, and frankly, the public, a little bit of assurance that, actual efforts are going to be undertaken and not just a promise that's not necessarily backed up by something.
Then we could ask the city solicitor for a recommendation on language for, if it's possible, that lays out and does exactly what you're talking about.
And those are the kind of questions to the city solicitor I can get behind.
Okay.
And I'd be happy, it may make sense for there to be a conversation with Ken, myself, and the city solicitor to be the most efficient here, to get this, as long as.
They're all about efficiency.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I'd welcome further discussion, but then ultimately a motion asking the city solicitor to have that meeting and discussion and come back to us with any recommendations that she may have.
Sure.
Can we make it, can I suggest that there may be other issues that the board is going to want the city solicitor to weigh in? So could we make it
I was
with
going to
respect
say
to the
that earlier in the meeting.
conditions?
There might be several questions.
I had a question for Attorney Bailey, if possible.
Attorney Bailey, are you on the line?
Dan, are you still there?
I am. I just had to unmute myself.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you referenced that you seemed rather definitive that case law doesn't allow us as a board to impose conditions based on easement rights by a third party. Are you familiar with Adams versus the Planning Board of Westwood?
I am not, but as a resident of Westwood, I'd be more than happy to look at it. And former interim town council at Westwood.
Oh, that's how unusual. What are the odds with 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts?
Actually, not that great because there are only so many land use lawyers around.
I just reference that because apparently the appeals court upheld most of the conditions the board placed on a definitive subdivision plan in that city in 2004, which sounds very similar to the case that we have before us.
I'm happy to look at it. I mean, my knee-jerk reaction is that's a subdivision case. This is a site plan approval case. And this board's authority under your site plan approval bylaw ordinance is pretty limited. But let me look at it rather than shoot from the dark and give you a substantive response.
Yeah, your shooting, I'm sure, is much more accurate than mine, which is based on ChatGPT, but thank you.
Well, ChatGPT is not terrible.
It's also hallucinogen from time to time, hallucinogenic. Well, to follow up on the fact that, then there are other questions perhaps for the city solicitor. There's one bucket of questions that have to do with conditions that would require, conditions off-site, right, that you don't have control of, that would require third-party approval or cooperation, whatever, right? So that's one bucket of them. And then I imagine that the other bucket is are conditions that would exceed the authority of the board.
Yes.
That would be number 3. So are those the 2 parameters that we would have for the discussion?
It depends. I don't know if it's, I thought the understanding of the third bucket was not that it's beyond the authority of the board. It's just, then they may be, but it was just more of conditions that you just disagree with.
Exceeds site plan review authority.
Yeah, I think it's in the nature of, we certainly don't like them, but they also exceed the authority. And it probably makes sense to just hit those. I mean, there's more that we agree to here than it seems. But the items that, the first list, or the first ones that come to mind are the recommendations from Parking and Traffic. This was in their original recommendation from July 15th. They were reviewing option A, but these same conditions would apply for option B as well. And we've talked about these in here. We've talked about them with Parking and Traffic a lot, so I'm not going to belabor the point. They are basically the requirement for installation of a video detection at the intersection of Cabot Street and Conant Street. And the applicant has made the point, and the traffic reports back this up, that the intersection at Cabot Street and Conant Street is not impacted by the project's traffic patterns. And, again, I'm not a traffic engineer, but it has been peer reviewed, both by Mr. Dirk as well as by Mass DOT through the MEPA process. And we have every reason to believe that Rebecca's information is correct. And because of that, we are doing substantial mitigation to many intersections within the city layout and the state layout. But this one we are objecting to because there's no demonstrable link between the project and having an impact on this particular intersection. I'm not going to say any more, but that's in the bucket of, we think that's beyond the scope. The second one.
If I may, please?
Yes,
Thank you. So the objection is that there is no impact on that intersection.
Correct.
But the note says the applicant continues to object because it's outside the board's authority. That's not the same argument.
Well, it is, because one of the requirements that the case law sets out is that there be a reasonable nexus between the mitigation that's being required and the actual harm that you're trying to solve. And in this case, we've demonstrated through data that there's no impact on that intersection. So
Okay.
requiring improvements to that intersection, it doesn't fly.
Yeah, I would submit that the wording of this, where it states that it's outside the board's authority, is not clear that it's outside the board's authority because there is no impact. I would
Understood.
clarify that.
We've made this argument multiple times, so I took a shortcut, but
Okay,
hopefully that clarifies it.
thank you.
The second condition there is, there has been a lot of discussion about the raised sidewalk along Trask Lane. This is beyond the work zone of our project and continues up through Trask Lane to the Folly Hill development. And what we have proposed in lieu of the raised sidewalk on one side of the street is to do 5 feet wide travel lanes on both sides of the streets that would accommodate both pedestrian and bicycle use. This has been reviewed by Mr. Dirk, and he has agreed that under the latest standards applicable to engineering and traffic design, that this is the preferred way to handle with shared use of a roadway when you have a minor roadway, which Trask Lane is. So he's stated that, I believe, before this board, and I know he stated it in front of the Parking and Traffic Commission. We've stated it. I'm not going to say anything more, but we feel, again, for the same reason, that there is nothing, it's, first of all, it's unsafe compared to what the applicant is proposing. And secondly, we don't think that it is, at this extent of sidewalk that just ends somewhere on Trask Lane is a particularly useful way to connect the site to anything. It's a sidewalk to nowhere. That's how we've talked about it. And that's our position on that.
Wayne, and then our planning director wants to weigh in.
Yeah, I just would make the same argument that the note is not particularly clear, that you're suggesting that that mitigation is not the best mitigation, there's a better one, but the note says that it's outside the board's authority. Again, it's just not very clear.
I think the materials that have been submitted. and
Yeah,
there have been
I
letters.
understand that.
Okay.
I'm just
I
noting
can
that
fix
the
the
note
note.
is, to me, is not clear on that point.
Darlene?
Darlene Nguyen, Planning Director. I just wanted to correct, from my recollection, because I reviewed the minutes today, the comment was by Mr. Dirk that both methods are acceptable methods, but a sidewalk would be safer in that situation, so, for pedestrian traffic.
Okay, thank you.
I'm
Do you
sorry.
have- Yes, Wayne?
There seems to be some contention here as to whether both are acceptable or whether one is preferable. Could you clarify?
I just listened to the tape. Again, I've gone through my notes. I believe that and Rebecca, if you're still on, jump in, but I believe that what I've heard Mr. Dirk say is that this is in fact preferable.
Okay. It's an important
If
point
I've
to
got
me.
it wrong, I
whether-
apologize, but that's my understanding.
Yeah, it's important to me that if there is one preferred over the other, even though both are acceptable, I'd like to know which is preferable. So if we could clarify that, thank you.
Yeah, so my understanding in speaking with Mr. Dirk as well, and attending the Parking and Traffic Commission meeting is that obviously a sidewalk is the safer method for providing pedestrian access, but that within the roadway width that we have to work with, we can't provide accommodations for both a raised sidewalk and for bicyclists. So the option that we have proposed provides access for both pedestrians and bicyclists. If we were to do a sidewalk within the existing roadway width, we would essentially lose the ability to provide access for the bicyclists along the roadway.
I guess that means that giving the existing restrictions, that it's preferable.
That is correct, yes. Yeah, and we did also share this information with Mass DOT with their Complete Streets Division. We were meeting with them to go over other improvements off-site for locations that are under their jurisdiction. But we did, because they focus on complete streets, present to them this issue and ask them for their opinion. And they agreed that in this type of situation, that what we were proposing was the best option.
Thank you.
Now, we have, here I am, I'm breaking my rule, but everyone's going to just pretend I'm not, that specifically diving into the nuts and bolts of a particular condition here. But in Beverly, we have many roads that don't have bike lanes, identified. It's a shared road. And, I think that in terms of bike traffic, I don't know how heavy the bike traffic is going to be. There'll be some coming to the paths, the walkways and things like that. But pedestrians, to me, are the ones who are most vulnerable. But anyway, we have a city where we have many streets where we have a sidewalk and bikes, also travel on it. Yeah, George.
I've said this in the past. I do think there's a danger in asking this applicant to fix problems that are the city's fault going back 60 years in that case, right? Like, the city approved that road the way it is at some point in the past, and obviously we do things differently now, but, I do also, I have a lot of sympathy for the idea that I don't know where people are necessarily walking heading that way. I've run through there, I've biked through there. If you're on a bike, you're a lot more likely to maybe make it to North Beverly or something if you're going up that way and you're gonna cut through to, Oberlin Road. But, there's not, this site is extremely isolated for pedestrians in general. And I think the idea of there being high levels of pedestrian circulation around that site, from the applicant site up to the, Folly Hill Apartments is relatively remote.
Yeah. Wayne?
I guess I've made this point before, but I'm not a traffic expert, and I don't believe we have one on the board. Therefore, I would defer to the best expert opinion that we can find. Thank you.
And I'd just say, George, I agree with you totally in terms of we're somewhat handicapped or hamstrung here with what we have to work with and the decisions that were made before. But at the same time, this project is increasing substantially the size of the entire area and impacting anyone that needs to get to it has to go through the existing locations. So while we're talking a lot about the impact of traffic, et cetera, on the specific residents who are attending the meeting, all the way up and down, it's going to be an increase.
I would just say respectfully, we are also talking about private ways that are under neither the city nor the applicant's control.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think they're all good points, personally. You know, it's what I said. Yes, Rebecca.
Oh, yes, so I was just going to point out, I know that you mentioned that there are many roads that don't have separate bike lanes and where bicyclists share the space with the traffic. And one of the reasons that we actually, that I say we can't provide accommodations for bicyclists is that there is a minimum width that you need of at least 12 feet of travel lane in order to actually be able to provide shared space for a bicyclist and a pedestrian, or excuse me, and a vehicle. And that's to be able to allow 4 feet of space for the bicyclist and an 8-foot space for the car to go by without encroaching upon the opposing roadway. So if we were to provide the sidewalk within the roadway itself, we would now only be left with an 11-foot travel lane. So we wouldn't meet that requirement. And now with the new guidelines that require a driver to give 4 feet of space to a bicyclist, that would push them even further into the opposing travel lane. And that's why providing them with their own space that they can share with a pedestrian is preferred over having a shared space that really isn't wide enough to accommodate shared use.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we can talk about this one condition for the rest of the evening, if people would like to do that, or perhaps we can move on to others. But we were talking about conditions that exceed site plan review authority, and that was the second of those. What are the other ones that you have? And perhaps what are the conditions that fall into the second bucket, the ones requiring third-party approvals?
I'm going to take the last one first because it's easy. I think we've already touched on it. The ones that we've identified are those listed in Condition 8, approvals for off-site mitigation, and they are the improvement use of the Colgate Park Public Access Trail, the paving of the Fire Department access road from County Way Extension, and the construction of the sidewalk on Cherry Hill. Those are the three we've called out. We've talked about them. There are no others that we've identified that we've identified. We think we have the authority and the property rights to do all of the other things, save the easements, which again, we are hopeful that we can get, and we understand that risk is on us if we can't. So the second item, or the additional items that we are objecting to, so one is the sewer line upgrade, and this is perhaps somewhat nuanced. We understand that the imposition or the requirement for upgrading the sewer or making sure that the sewage facilities are adequate for the site is within the board's authority. We have made the case with the engineering department. They disagree, but we've made the case that the applicant should not be responsible for a multi-million-dollar expense to fix a problem that already, by the city's own admission, exists. So we are being asked to correct and upgrade infrastructure yes, to serve our project, but also to mitigate conditions that exist currently in the city system. We have lost that battle. We're not going to try to win that battle with this board. We understand that we'd like that there wouldn't be a condition on the sewer, and I'm here to register our ongoing objection to it. But if the condition is going to be imposed, then it needs to have clarity. And as it was originally proposed or stated in the engineer's letter, it was sort of, we'll work with the applicant. We understand they've objected to this, and between now and the issuance of the building permit, we'll come up with a solution. We can't agree to that. We understand that what we understand is that they want us to replace approximately 2,300 linear feet of sewage line, and to upgrade it from a 8-inch sewer line to a 12-inch sewer line. This is not a small expense. We've made, as I said, we've had multiple meetings, multiple discussions with the engineering department and public services to try to sort this out. It's clear that we are not getting there. We continue to object to this being something that's outside the city's authority to require one applicant to bear the cost of. We also objected to the language that basically conditioned the issuance of certificates of occupancy on reevaluation of the plans for the sewage. In my experience, these conditions are usually, in order to pull a building permit, we are going to need to get a sewer connection permit and provide plans to the engineering department in the normal course that are satisfactory to them, that comply with their regulations, and that's fine. You can put that condition for a building permit. I've not seen sort of a second bite of the apple that the certificate of occupancy is then somehow back within a planning board condition for a infrastructure upgrade that the engineering department signs off on. And this may be another issue where we can massage the language. But that's the other major item. We've objected to another bucket that is more along the lines of, I think, a financing issue and an uncertainty issue, which is the expense of repaving Trask Lane and Apple Village. We've agreed that we will repave Duck Pond Road and that driveway. But what we had proposed, which we thought was reasonable, that we would do a survey prior to construction, video, the existing conditions, so that after construction, we have a record of the condition of the roads, and we would agree that they would be repaired and or repaved as necessary to restore those roads to the existing conditions. Again, we don't want to be responsible for taking on sole responsibility for maintenance of Trask Lane when that is a private way and there are private third-party agreements that govern how that road is maintained.
Yes, please.
I think a lot, depending on what we were talking about earlier with construction traffic and things like that, how many dump trucks will be going back forth full of fill or anything like that, there could be the potential that your construction activity does warrant a full repaving, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But we're just asking we don't want it to be
Guaranteed.
a guaranteed condition, because that requires a whole financing bucket to go along with it, and we would like to have the ability to demonstrate the actual condition of the road and what we're required to do.
Or would you be talking about like just filling in potholes with like cold patch, or actually doing some like, or will Trask Lane end up looking like a patchwork quilt?
No, I mean, Joe, are you still on the line? That's not the intent.
Okay.
But, there may be sections of Trask Lane that are absolutely fine. And again, it is a private way. There are agreements between the owners that own the private way as to how it's supposed to be maintained. And we don't think.
Yeah, I'm on, Miranda.
Hi, Joe.
Hi.
You haven't been.
So, what we would do, we're saying that we would bring it back to the condition at the time that we start construction. So in most instances, if the road is in severe disrepair, then we'd do a mill and overlay. But we don't envision a bunch of patchwork. It's our front door. We want it to be presentable at the same time. We just don't want to have to just pave for the sake of paving if it doesn't need it.
I think that's all of them. There's one condition on signage.
Wayne?
Thank you.
Sorry.
Who would make the assessment at that time of what repair is necessary to bring it back to pre-existing condition? Who makes that?
We would do a survey and both take photographs and do a report at the beginning of the project. And at the end of the project, we would review that and we would determine, as the engineers for the project, we would determine what the course of action would have to be. And we have to answer to the other landowners out there. So, obviously Cherry Hill and Apple Village will have, the ability to, as stakeholders there, have their input.
Okay,
We envision
but
that the
ultimately
planning department, I'm sorry, Wayne, I just want to supplement that. We envision if it's a condition, that it would also have to be reviewed at the time of certificates of occupancy, and we've delineated those certificates.
Okay.
The planning staff would have to be satisfied that what we proposed was in fact reasonable.
Yeah, that would ultimately probably end up going from me to the engineering department as being the
Yes, yeah.
pavement guys.
That
I
makes
don't-
sense.
But we want to be able to, we want to dictate what that course of action is based on our initial review and study, so that we would present that. It wouldn't, we don't want to be put in a position where the engineering department just says, well, just rip the whole road up and redo it, when we don't think that's warranted.
Okay, so my question was, who would make that assessment? And that question has been asked and answered. Thank you.
Yes, we have, the one last issue is signage, and this may be a more technical issue that we can determine offline, but basically, our signage ordinance, which is extensive, says absolutely nothing about the RSD district. Nothing. There are no signage requirements. However, in the RSD actual zoning section, there is a reference to signage being approved by site plan. And so what we've asked for, we've shown the monument signs. We are asking for the condition to be reworked a little so that the board acknowledges approval of the signs. We're not trying to get out of design review board for the lighting and the look of the signs, but we just don't want somebody saying you have to go to the zoning board because there's nothing.
That's on me. You're exactly right.
All right, so that's,
Yeah.
So that'll change.
Yeah.
Ellen knows, she's on DRB. So, Dan, did I miss anything? I don't think so. I know we kind of hodgepodged around, but those are the issues that I think are in contention.
Can we talk about the public health?
Oh, yes. So, you want me to explain my rationale?
Where are we?
Public health, number, which is, it's section C, 2C.
it might take me a minute to find it. So I didn't, and I should have realized this earlier, but I did not. Usually, the health department letters are fairly standard, right? You're used to seeing them that way. In this case, there were the last 3 conditions in particular, which appear on page 4. I view them as commentary, and I view them as commentary that was not acted upon and that therefore is not a condition of approval. It's not,
I don't know where you
we
are.
need to somehow demonstrate that. And they are, for example, the planning board should review any air quality analysis report to better understand the air quality impacts this design may generate. Not something this planning board typically does. It was done during MIPA, by the way, but it's not something that this planning board does.
That's what this letter is. It's her BEPA letter.
I see.
Yep.
So I think maybe it's asking for a letter with her standard conditions, but
Is your only objection, because I spoke with her today about it, is your only objection to the part of the conditions that say the planning board should consider reduction in the size of the project? Because that can be construed as a condition that you would have to meet.
I think so, though, again, when we're looking about this as a document that needs to be financed, it's problematic to have all of this language in here. We can look at it more carefully, I think. I will look at it more carefully to see whether it can be left. I viewed it as really not anything that is actionable as a condition, and I would hate for somebody else to pick it up and think otherwise.
What if it was reworded to be findings?
That's fine.
Okay.
I think if a little tweaking of this letter would be, I
Okay.
think we can fix the problem.
Okay.
I just-
Rewording to be what?
Findings rather than conditions.
And I understand she wanted to be on the record, and I totally respect that. I just don't want it to be inadvertently construed.
And Miranda, I agree with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. There's a big difference between findings and conditions. A condition that says it should be reduced in size that is not responded to is going to be very difficult to deal with on financing.
Yeah. So I think that's it. I think, believe it or not, there were more that we agreed on than that we disagreed on, but.
So it occurs to me, if we're approaching wrap-up time, perhaps, that I'm still looking at the discussion with the city solicitor. Coming back to that. I definitely think that the conditions that are contingent on third party is one category. In terms of language to apply to those that would define diligent, that sort of thing, what their actions should be, maybe what could be included in that response or information that's, given to the planning department, but I think that's worthy of discussion with the city solicitor. I'm not sure that a three-way conversation is necessary with the ones that another set to review, to ask the city solicitor's opinion on whether or not these conditions exceed the board authority. I think that that's an internal one to the planning department, not necessarily for you. I mean, I think that we probably have enough
I don't
information.
agree. I'm sorry. I think those should have the city solicitors
Yes.
weigh in, because otherwise we're going to be back.
I'm talking about the city solicitor's weigh in.
Oh, yes,
No.
I'm sorry.
But I'm
I
not, I'm
misunderstood
talking
you.
about more conversation, Ken, with you. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe it's okay with
It's-
the attorney, but it's a counsel thing, where we're getting counsel.
Yes, and
Not,
we,
we're not getting counsel from you on it.
no,
We're getting
but
counsel.
I'm representing the applicant, and your counsel is representing you. And I think it's in everybody's interest here to make sure this decision is well vetted on both sides, so that we don't have a repeat of past history. And I don't think it's an unusual, I mean, I know it's not usually done here. However, we're not asking for something that is out of the ordinary. Usually there is a lot of back and forth between, many boards ask the applicants to write their decisions. So we're not, and there is back and forth that's allowed with the city solicitor in that instance. So if I were to ask, I would say, please give your city solicitor authority to review the final proposed decision, so that we aren't, if she sees something else, I don't want her to say, I wasn't asked to review that.
No, that's not what I was saying. I mean,
Okay.
I'm just wondering that it makes sense for the working meeting to include staff, our city solicitor, and you as a representative from the applicant to say what wording would work for these third-party contingent conditions, saying that there were maybe one or two of them that survived this process or more. And then the discussion about here are draft conditions that are being discussed, including ones from the applicant and edits, that sort of, but to receive that counsel, I mean, I'm not sure whether or not the city solicitor is going to be, want to have that with, I'm not just going to say opposing, but different counsel representing someone else's interest in that discussion.
I'll defer to the city solicitor on that. I mean, I think, I would anticipate that she would have meetings with Ken and Darlene and engineering that would be internal, and I wouldn't be invited to. All I'm asking for is that we maybe be afforded the opportunity to have some back and forth in real time so that we can get to an efficient product that we are both satisfied with.
Yeah.
The only concern I have with that is these things are debated in a public forum. And ultimately, we're not the ones who decide what the conditions are, it's this board.
I think the debate is only whether or not the meetings are internal or whether they include your representation of council.
I mean, we can do it in writing back and forth. I'm not trying to suggest anything untoward. I was just thinking about efficiency.
And I didn't mean to imply that either, I'm not saying that, anything like that, I'm just
Yeah,
trying to.
I
I don't think it's our decision.
It's a recommendation from the city solicitor in terms of potential conditions, the conditions that potentially. Thank you. About conditions that could potentially exceed the board's authority. Yes, Wayne?
So as far as our action plan, do we need to vote on what we are asking of the city solicitor at this time?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so that's what this discussion is about.
That's where I'm trying to go with this.
Okay, and I would suggest that it's up to the city solicitor whether or not who she wishes to meet with. We ask her for counsel, and it's up to her to decide how she arrives at that counsel, whether or not it's internal meetings or whether it's with outside meetings. That's kind of up to her. We don't get to decide that for her. We get to decide to ask her for counsel on certain issues. So let's do that.
I'm trying to figure out how to phrase the
I'll ask ChatGPT.
Don't, please, don't, please.
Perhaps you could ask for her feedback on the comments that have been submitted on November 17th. And as may be supplemented so that maybe Ken and I work together a little bit ahead of time. I mean, if you're not comfortable with me speaking with the city solicitor, which
Oh, I'm not, what I'm
really
saying is I
understand,
don't
but-
want a negotiation of
Yeah.
what the conditions are to come out, here's the recommended. I mean, I think the board, the most important thing is this outside of our purview? We're taking you've done it eloquently, Mr. Bailey has done it eloquently, and we all have common sense, or at least some of us. I don't want to necessarily include myself in that, so, but what I'm just trying to do is not ask too specific request and come back with, here are the negotiated conditions, because it's our responsibility to come up with the conditions. But if we know, you know, whether or not something is in our purview or not, then that's helpful. Yes, George?
Would you like a motion, and maybe we can massage it if we need to? All right, move that the board submit the proposed, or the potential conditions of approval as drafted by the planning department with the suggested red lines from the applicant to the city solicitor, specifically asking for her opinion regarding the questions of law around the board's authority that were, you know, posed by the applicant. How's that?
That's good. The other, and maybe it's part of it, but specifically say, and also for assistance with wording for conditions that have, that contingent conditions that's.
Sure, and
Off-site.
Also ask for the city solicitor's opinion regarding the question we had about making diligent efforts on, I suppose that's proposed condition number 8.
Yeah.
I wonder if we're skipping the step where it's been suggested multiple times this evening that that the applicant's counsel meet with our planning director or our planning department to massage this before submitting. But that will happen before the suggested meeting. Will it not?
Speaking only for myself, I think the questions in terms of what is the board's authority and how does that relate to the feedback we got from the applicant is sort of independent of exactly where Ken and Attorney Samasco land on that particular, like on any particular condition. And it would be good to know anyway, but you know, if you want to amend it to say following, you know, any, you know, changes that might be made by Ken and Attorney Samasco, it doesn't matter to me.
So amended.
I don't think it needs to be amended personally, because the question, we're asking the city solicitor to do something. We're not asking her to, you know, I think it'll just happen ahead of time. Okay, the Attorney Samasco and Mr. Clausen will most likely say, okay, so how do we put the synopsis together?
I think the only thing that Miranda and I had talked about working on together was pulling out specifically which conditions from the letters would be applicable. And I don't think there's any harm in doing that part.
Right, and maybe signage.
Yeah, and something with the signage, which again, yeah.
So I think that's a natural thing that would take place. I don't think we have to say ahead of time.
You okay with that, Ken?
Mr. Beckwith, would you like a second on the motion?
Yeah, that would be great.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion on the motion?
It just occurs to me that, I don't want to tell her how to do her job, certainly, but it might be enlightening to our city solicitor to hear at least some of the discussion that occurred this evening, because we were, in fact, challenged on our purview of what we're ruling on. We have received a challenge, verbally, and I think that's noteworthy.
Yeah. I think that would, it's probably something she does already, but
I don't know that.
a good suggestion for Ken to bring forward to her.
She does.
So, okay.
And for the record, we think she's uncommonly good at her job and should do great on this.
And the time code to look at right now for comments about how wonderful she is okay. Nate, did you have questions? Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, it's a unanimous vote in favor. So we have that much accomplished this evening. I would just make a personal request that that happens sooner rather than later, so that we, as a board, have the next iteration of the conditions for us to consider, and any legal recommendation or commentary and things like that, you know, at least a week in advance of our next meeting, so we all individually have time to absorb it, think about it, and come to the meeting with our questions and comments, and because I think it's in all of our interests to button this down. Have a vote. Yes.
I wonder if I might ask one other question about these proposed conditions, if it's all right?
Yeah, please.
Ken, on your document, it's condition 4. On the red line, it's condition 6. Is that the city's condition regarding no new access roads to the project?
Actually, that was Attorney Zamasco's.
That was at the very beginning of this project. We met with the neighbors in the Colgate Park neighborhood, as well as had discussions with the mayor's office. And one of the things that we promised to do when we submitted the application was to ask for that as a condition. And so that's why that's there.
Might I suggest that we're conditioning future decisions of the board, not only of the city of Beverly, but of the town of Danvers? And I don't know that we can do that.
I don't feel, I mean, I feel strongly that we promised that for that condition. As a practical matter, there are zoning issues, there are buffer zones that preclude that, and we tried to make that clear to people, but they didn't want to hear it, so we said we will ask for a condition.
It was also conditioned in the definitive subdivision plan approval that,
I don't remember that,
yeah,
but
that's almost the same condition.
Well, maybe the wording just
Well, I
reads,
apologize for not catching it at
No.
the time.
maybe the wording just says the applicant will not request any new access roads. Doesn't say it won't happen ever, it says you will not request it. Maybe
fine with
that's the
that.
wording.
That's a good compromise, thank you.
I think that's better.
You're earning your pay tonight, Wayne.
Yeah, my gas money. It's electric.
Okay. We have other business besides this topic.
No, we don't.
It will be quick. But why don't we have a,
We have
yes,
to continue the public meeting.
I was just going to ask if you were planning to continue it or if there was any value in closing the public hearing.
continue it.
What would be the rationale for not closing the public hearing?
If there are any hiccups that come, and by closing the public hearing, we have a deadline to finish. I mean, I think the goal is to finish, but I think at this point in time, if anything was to come up or any new proposals, anything comes out of the city solicitor's discussion, anything like that, it's always, well, not always, it seems to be the prudent thing to keep it open.
Yeah, I see the value in having the option, just asking for us to go on record for why we wouldn't want a deadline at this point. It would be really nice to have a deadline. And, you know, I think we're starting to rehash some of the same things meeting by meeting by meeting. And so just, I'm happy to go on record as saying a deadline could be useful.
65,
Yes, Wayne?
once a public hearing's closed, it's 65 days. And if there is no decision within those 65 days, a constructive approval can be sought, and that will not have any conditions.
I would,
So Wayne, what was your?
yeah, thanks. I, too, would love to see an end, to the light at the end of this tunnel. However, as previously stated, This requires a lot of work, and due diligence takes a lot of time. I think I called it a wicked lot of time, and it does. And I would not be comfortable closing the public hearing at this time, my opinion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, George?
I'll just, I think I second what Sarah says. I do think there's benefit to encouraging us to all work closely to get these things right, and maybe a ticking clock does that, but defer to the board, obviously.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, there isn't a motion on the floor on that, but I'd say as part of that, that if we don't have a vote next month, then I think that's when we should look to,
I'd be happy to consider it next month.
yeah, I definitely would,
We would be most grateful if you could decide.
yeah.
But I think we also don't want to close the public hearing until the conditions are worked out from the applicant's standpoint. So hopeful that we can do that and get everybody the conditions as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Beckwith, would you like a motion to continue?
That would be welcome.
Mr. Beckwith, I move to continue the public hearing for site plan review number 168-24 in the inclusionary housing number 30-24 at 0 Trask Lane to December 16, 2025.
Is there a second? Seconded by Wayne. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous in the affirmative, and we'll, for the diehards in the audience, thank you, and we'll see you next month. I'd welcome a motion to re-enter our regular meeting.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, we're back in regular session. Come on, you guys don't want to stay and watch us do the rest of our work tonight?
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Good night.
You can catch it on BevCam if you're afraid.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, next is going to be to adopt the fiscal year 2026 fee in lieu of affordable housing units. If everyone should have gotten that in their packet.
Once again, this is something that we have to do every year based on previous 3 years' assessors' data for sales in specific neighborhoods. It is a 35, the fee in lieu for affordable housing is 35% of the median of all single-family homes or condo sales. And this is this year's list.
This is the one I'm looking at. It says calculation date November 11th, 2025.
Correct. And this is just something that gets reinserted into the zoning ordinance year after year without city council action, because it's not a change to the zoning ordinance, it's an update to a table.
Yeah. Any questions? Yes, George.
Is there, I know in the past, there's been a thought of doing away with this as an alternative to building affordable units?
It hasn't been discussed in a while, but it hasn't been used since 2016. And the fee would go directly to our Affordable Housing Trust, which could use some money, I believe. Is that,
Yeah,
am I stating this right?
Darlene Nguyen,
yeah.
Planning Director. The conversation was about getting rid of really the credit units, and which we did in 2018, 19-ish. There was some conversation by some council candidates about getting rid of the fee in lieu. That was not something that has been communicated very broadly to me about getting rid of the fee in lieu part.
Oh, interesting, okay. I
So-
thought maybe
I think there's confusion between the credit units that were used, the ability to credit units to other projects that were used in the past, which had a lot of contention, versus the fee in lieu, which didn't have as much, but may need to answer some questions around it, frankly. I mean, it is great when we get one, because we get money that we can then leverage additional projects for. But frankly, we're not getting that many of them, and it's not, so. But it provides an option, and an option that actually does provide benefit, versus credit units felt like, hey, we're just putting
It's the four door.
affordable
Yeah, I
units
get
somewhere
it.
else.
Yeah. Can I, sorry to, the number seems relatively low, so, and I know they're only allowable on, is it ownership units, correct? So that's why it hasn't been used. But like, there's no way that amount is the amount that it costs to construct a new affordable unit. So we're getting less value for it in one way, right? And I know it's 10:30 and I apologize.
Yeah, no, I mean, we can have more conversation about theirs. I've always kind of looked at how, there's like three maybe different ways to do this. I don't know any other community that does it this way. But it's the easiest way for a planning board to conceive it. So this is based on me talking to the consultant who wrote these regs back in 2006, before I was here, but I've worked with her on a bunch of things, and she just helped us do the CDBG application last year, so I asked her, I'm like, so she has a good base, like, there was a real reason why they picked this, and we adjusted it in 2018, so it used to be the average of the lowest 50%, and now it's just the average of the median, so we actually bumped it up. But it does seem like it's not catching up with market rates and construction costs. But otherwise, some of the other communities, it's really like, it's a game time decision. For each project, you have to determine what the value is. But there are some other ways, and so that could be something we look at, is like, is there a different way to do it that is easy to process and actually gives us more value, and there's a benefit. The more money we ask for, the fewer we're probably going to get. We're more likely to get them on site.
That's fair, okay.
Yeah.
And I appreciate we're going afield. It seems like when you're building new units, they're gonna be at the higher end of the market, so maybe going further up the scale from 50% to 75% or whatever, but that's not our job here, sorry.
There's always questions about this when it comes up every year, I feel
I
like.
mean, that is potentially the board's job, to look at zoning ordinance and
Then we're doing our job here, guys.
suggest changes.
Any other questions on this? Yes, Judy.
Is there a way we could take more of a look at it, put it off now without jeopardizing the benefit of the payment in lieu?
This is for fiscal year 2026, which started in July.
So
We're late.
So it's already a little late. This is actually pretty early compared to when we usually update it.
so we should do this.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if theoretically we were to put a change into place, you could instantly use that change. It doesn't matter if you've already approved this. I also don't think anything will happen that quickly before next year's would be due. So maybe that would be the timeline. Yeah.
That answers my question, yeah.
I guess quickly, I'll just say that I have not heard an argument from housing advocates against what we are doing.
Yeah,
They seem to be in favor of this plan.
yeah, no, I should say I was not questioning it. I wasn't skeptical of it so much as I wondered, does it limit us from doing something even better if this is only one of several ways of approaching it?
Yeah, I think the answer is no, it does not limit us, and we could bring this up at any time.
That's the best answer.
I mean, I think the big thing, to Darlene's point, was the elimination of the credits and the ability to build Depot 2, for example, without any affordable units, so. I'd welcome a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to adopt the fiscal year 2026 fee in lieu of affordable housing units, the update table per Chapter 315, inclusionary housing regulations, as presented.
Seconded by George. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous in the affirmative. And next, the approval of the 2026 Planning Board schedule. We have the schedule here.
Does it all move to Wednesday?
A full complement, Mr. Clausen?
14 meetings, just like this year, double meetings in April and October. I went through and made sure none were on many major religious holidays or council meetings or in conflict with anything like that. That's why some of the meetings are a little bit earlier in the month, especially at the beginning of the year. And then we get back to the third Tuesday around May, I think.
Yeah, you don't want to switch them all to Wednesday? No, okay.
Motion?
Any other, yes, motion, please?
Motion to approve the 2026 Planning Board schedule for the City of Beverly as presented.
Second, seconded by Wayne. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Judy, did you have your hand up?
I did have my.
Yes, it's unanimous in the affirmative. And approval of minutes, I didn't see minutes.
I maybe forgot to send them out.
Oh, that was for our 5-minute meeting. That was the shortest minutes for the shortest meeting.
October 7th meeting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's okay. It won't take much time next
Yeah, we
month.
can,
That being said,
we did make a motion to table that then.
pardon me?
Make a motion to table that to the next meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Move to table the approval of the minutes from the October 7th, 2025 meeting.
Segundo.
or continue to our next meeting?
Yep.
Yeah, rather than table.
Oh, did you want?
Either one.
I'm tabling.
Either one.
We'll do it next
Yeah.
time, that's all.
Okay. Second. Wayne, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous in the affirmative. And is there any new business?
No.
Ready for a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Gomes, seconded by Judy. And all those in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much.